Go ahead, Mel.
No, I'm here, but I'm not here for like 5 minutes. I want to stream to my audience. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, that's cool because we're talking about policing the homeless, right? We're talking about this whole order that Trump had, but I'll wait to you already
No,
streaming.
it's all right. Go ahead. Go ahead and rock out. It's all right. I'll
So
roll with it.
what's happening is that Trump has this executive order that is really like a criminalizing homelessness in the community, uh, and what we're arguing about is the fact that
No arguing, no arguing, no arguing. Don't say
what
that.
our contention is that I'm saying that this is not just a matter of only mental illness and I would say people like being criminal homeless people, but also vagrancy. Everything ties into this because at the end of the day, anyone could get picked up based on this if they're living in a place or like having like tents put up, whatever. When they go to like swipe this, when the states go and implement this law, they're not going to be like, "Hey, are you mentally ill?" They're going to swoop everybody up and then figure it out later. So what she's saying is that this is really only based on vagrant like mental illness and criminality, and so that's what our conversation is. And so then we got into race because she I showed a video of a woman that's who's saying, and I'll play it again for your audience so you can hear what she said. So let's.
Trump just signed a new executive order targeting homelessness. But look deeper, and you'll see this isn't about public safety. It's about profit, punishment, and prison beds. Hi, I'm Dallas Fresa, a nationwide prison consultant and advocate. This new federal measure directs states to enforce anti-camping, loitering, and squatting laws to the maximum extent permitted by law. If states don't comply, well, guess what? They're losing their federal funding. Who does this target? Cities like Los Angeles, states with visible homelessness and liberal leadership. Let's not pretend this is about fixing the housing crisis. It's about criminalizing poverty and weaponizing the legal system against people with nowhere to go. This is how you build a pipeline from sidewalk to cell block. And once you're inside, welcome to forced labor in a for-profit prison. Sound familiar? You know what people forget? Incarcerated people cook your food, build furniture, sew uniforms, and clean state buildings for pennies an hour. They're not given job training or true rehabilitation. They're used, overcrowded, forgotten, and now we're going to fill these beds with unhoused people. We're not solving homelessness. We're monetizing it. Let me be clear. This is modern day slavery. And yes, that's a strong word, but it's accurate. Prisons make billions off of free or nearly free labor, and this new order ensures a fresh supply of bodies. Poor, mostly black and brown, often disabled, mentally ill, or just broke. We all see the crisis on our streets, so why not increase housing? Why not raise the minimum wage? Why not treat homelessness as a public health emergency, not a criminal act? If this doesn't sit right with you, if locking up the homeless feels like punishment for poverty, speak up. Comment below. Is
All right.
Did you
So
hear that just now? Now,
Yeah.
when she said about the black, she didn't say that gearing towards homelessness. She said that in lieu of them being incarcerated in prisons and jail. She didn't say that in lieu of the homelessness. She said it in lieu of them being incarcerated, not homeless. Because homeless is not just of black. It's a whole lot of white people homeless, a lot of them. So that was geared for the prisons and the jails. And she threw that in there.
well, like I said, then I like brought up this statistic where it talks about
Mm.
say blacks are right here in the whole statistic at the in the like kind of like toward the middle, and then you have Asians, whites, blacks, Latinos, and then Native Americans, etc. So I'm like, okay, so it is people of color. So she's right about that. The people that are homeless are people of color. So this is an attack on people of color. Period.
But
It's not. Go ahead. You know what, Mel? Do you have anything you want to say?
Not yet, but I can understand how this could pose a problem, but at face value, it seems to be targeting people who have issues.
All right, so let's go into it. So we actually got into the bill, right? We talked about the bill. So
Can you give me 5 minutes? I'm going to bring people in. So just I just need a few more minutes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cause yeah, I'm shouts out to Watching the World's panel. Thank you for coming. I'm going to play a couple of more videos while he's bringing people in so that we can get a good idea of what we're talking about here. Because I really just want to have a clear understanding. I'm going to remove myself and bring more people, show the.
So Donald Trump just signed an executive order saying that state and local officials should do whatever they need to do to get the homeless off the streets and hold them against their will. From Trump's order, shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment will restore public order. I mean, how Orwellian is that? How authoritarian is that? One of the things authoritarians love to do is say they are trying to keep people safe. And who are they keeping people safe from? From the other people, the people that don't belong. When they dehumanize groups of people. So I know MAGA isn't going to care about this because they still see these people as not human. But I want to show you the gradual slide we're starting here. Okay, first it was we're just going after the criminals, just going after the terrible illegal aliens who commit crimes. And who would be against getting violent cartel members off the street? Nobody. But then all of a sudden we start realizing that there are U.S. citizens being caught up in this dragnet. People who are being sent to other countries, dangerous situations like that. People who are vets who are being disappeared because they're brown. But unfortunately, most of MAGA is like, yeah, they're not real Americans because they're not white. But now I want you to see what's happening now. There's another vulnerable population. Another group of people we can discard from society. And so now they're going to take these people off the streets against their will. Now listen, I know there's a homeless problem. I get it. There needs to be something done, but this isn't the compassionate, humane thing. You mean compassionate and humane like alligator Alcatraz? No. This is yet another group of other people that are seen as less than, that we are now going to take out and disappear. Who do you think is going to be next? Now, I'll agree, most of the MAGA groups are going to not be there for a while. But understand, this is not about safety or security or any of that. This is about ridding the country of the weak, ridding the country of the minority, ridding the country of anybody they can dehumanize that isn't white. Now, I have a son with a disability, and I have a son who is Asian. When are they going to come for him? And for all of you who are minorities who are supporting MAGA, understand that you are not safe in Trump's America. You are not. So here comes the next level, guys. Who will be the next marginalized group that will be discarded by Trump's America? This is just the tip of the iceberg. We need to push back. Even if you're for strong borders, even if you're for, getting homeless off the street, understand that this is not what it's about. Fight back, resist.
So Genesis, you there?
I'm sorry, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that.
All right. So since I'm bringing in my crew, can we start? You guys have some time, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I
All right.
do. I do.
So do you have time, Queen, too, or no?
Yeah, I do, but I wanted to change my clothes, but I got time. We good.
All right. So take your 5 minutes and whatever. Do you need more time? Whatever. I want to make this good. I want you to be comfortable, but you look
Yeah.
fabulous to me, but whatever makes you comfortable.
Okay. You know, okay. All right, let's go. Y'all, you
And,
know,
and,
you ready? Let's go. I'm
and,
ready.
and I
All
have
right.
other videos I could show that's breaking it down, breaking the law down. Like, we didn't really get
So
that much
so
into
we
it.
can get into all that tonight. I just want to stream to my audience, so I think I'm already doing that. So we can get started. But can we start with the baseline of the bill? That's where, what video do you have? Because I haven't really delved into the bill. So can you play I've been watching you guys for quite some time. So can you play the video where the attorney is talking about the bill first?
Trump just signed a truly terrifying executive order to bring back forced institutionalization. Yep, you heard that right. It's truly terrifying and no one is talking about it. I'm Eliza Orland's career public defender for 15 years in Manhattan, and we have to talk about the executive order that they're calling Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets. This order specifically targets unhoused people, people with mental illnesses, and people who use drugs. It calls the hundreds of thousands of people experiencing homelessness on a single night endemic vagrancy, and frames them as threats to public safety. Trump is using fear to justify locking them away under what he calls civil commitment, aka forced confinement. Here's what the order actually does. First, it directs the Attorney General to overturn federal and state court decisions that protect people from involuntary confinement, essentially gutting due process rights that took decades to secure. Second, it ends housing first policies that have actually worked to reduce homelessness. Instead, it forces people to accept treatment whether they want it or not as a condition of receiving federal housing aid. Third, it prioritizes federal grants for states that enforce bans on urban camping, loitering, and squatting, aka criminalizing the simple act of existing without a shelter. Fourth, it expands civil commitment to anyone deemed a danger to themselves or others, or who cannot care for themselves. Language so vague, it could quite literally apply to anyone experiencing a crisis. This is not about safety or compassion. The order literally says the goal is to protect public safety by removing people from public view. This is about control, criminalization, and disappearing poverty, not solving it. This is mass incarceration 2.0, only now it's dressed up in fake compassion and medical language. We've seen this before. In the era of massive state hospitals, warehousing, and forced sterilization, and we know how this ends. As a career public defender, I've seen what happens when governments use the courts to cage, confine, and criminalize instead of care. If you're as horrified as I am, share this video and follow me. If you're interested, I can break down every section of this executive order piece by piece, because this isn't just cruel, this is calculated, and we need to understand exactly what we're fighting against. Thanks for being here, and please make sure you're following for more.
Okay. So it seems like she's a little bit slanted with her. Her testimony seems slanted. Is there something more neutral, just breaking down the actual bill?
Thank you. That's how I felt.
So we're going to go through something that's more neutral. I get her position, but it's biased. So I just wanted to get a clearer understanding. Shout out to Deborah. Shout out to Bordeaux. Thanks for everybody that's coming in to support the live tonight. We're talking about the new executive order from Donald Trump, per se, in regards to the homeless people. And I'm here in New York, and we have an abundance of homeless people. And quite frankly, it's out of control.
Yep.
It's out of control.
I'm gonna play this for right now while I look up the more neutral side.
The Trump administration just made it legal today to civilly commit and put someone into an institution who has a mental illness, is homeless, or has an addiction. The ending crime and disorder on America's streets is not at all what it looks like. Let me break this down for you. In Section 2, titled Restoring Civil Commitment, it says the Attorney General with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, so that's Pam Bondi, and RFK Jr., shall take appropriate action to seek, in appropriate cases, the reversal of federal or state judicial precedents and the termination of consent decrees. What that means is that all federal and state case law surrounding civil commitment They're upending that. With this executive order, the Attorney General and Health and Human Services will provide assistance to state and local governments to identify, adopt, and implement civil commitment and institutional treatment that allow for appropriate commitment and treatment of individuals with mental illness. So if you remember, we go back to where it said that all the judicial precedents and the consent decrees are out the window. That is your due process. What this means is that anybody can say that you're mentally ill and that you're a danger to others or yourself. You don't have to have a mental illness at all, or you could have a mental illness, such as major depressive disorder. It's outing everybody. If you are someone who is unsheltered, anyone could say, well, if you're unsheltered, you obviously can't care for yourself because you're not getting a job, you don't have a home. Obviously, you can't care for yourself. Do you see how easy this is? But let me go on. In Section 5, increasing the accountability of people in homelessness programs, we involve HUD. And this one, I mean, the rest of it is all terrible, but this is really sickens me, because Section B says the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, which is HUD, shall take steps to require recipients of federal housing, all federal housing, homelessness assistance, to increase requirements that persons participating in the recipients' programs, just fancy wording for people who are participating in this federal housing, who suffer from substance use disorder or serious mental illness, use substance abuse treatment or mental health services as a condition of participation. That means that you seek mental health services as a condition of retaining your housing. I have no words. No words. It goes on. The Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, in consultation with the Attorney General and Secretary of Health and Human Services, Pam Bondi and RFK Jr., shall, as appropriate and to the extent permitted by law, which we know is bullshit, shall allow or require the recipients of federal funding for homelessness assistance to collect health-related information that the Secretary of HUD identifies as necessary to the effective and efficient operation of the funding program from all persons to whom assistance is provided, and require those funding recipients, people receiving housing, to share such data with law enforcement authorities in circumstances permitted by law, again, bullshit, and to use the collected health data to provide appropriate medical care to individuals with mental health diagnoses, not mental illnesses, not severe mental illnesses, mental health diagnoses, or to connect individuals to public health resources. They don't want to connect you to anything, and we know that. We've seen that for months now. This is the next line on the poem. Nazi Germany did this. They were coming for the disabled under the guise of homelessness and substance use disorders and saying, oh, we need to get the quote, crazy people off the streets. It's unfair to everybody, the homeless, the mentally ill, the addicted, and everybody else, because they are vagrants and just to make everybody unsafe. And just like whatever it was, I forget, that the Nazi party put out with their National Socialism, when they were saying, like, oh, this is what our party's about, and there were all these good things. There's things in there that aren't actual socialism, and they're like, hey, yeah, that's actually a good idea. But then they sneak in one little part here and one little part there. That's straight fascism. That's what this is. Starts out addressing just kind of more homelessness, and then the wording keeps changing. Just like I said, it talks about people with severe mental illnesses, and then it just goes straight into mental diagnoses. I can tell you from this and being on housing myself that it doesn't matter if you have a mental health diagnosis or not, because either you do or you do, right? This is all a ruse and a guise to create reasons for more camps, more prisons, because it's a lot easier, especially, to come after political dissidents if they deem you as being mentally ill and you don't have the right to due process in that case. To people who are on disability for these things, they're super in danger. We know that Palantir, Peter Thiel, and all those evil people are working with the White House to collect all of this data and more on every single person in the United States, so that they can put together a master list, so that they know who to go after, and they know where they live, and they know where they work, and they know where they bank, so that they can find you easier. I don't have any words. I can't tell you just how dangerous this is, and I know that most of you will understand and will know that there's so many people that don't. And I know I'm posting this.
Right. So, all right. So, I'm trying to find someone that disagrees with it. It's hard to find it. I'm trying to find someone who disagrees. I did find a psychologist. I'm not sure if she's going to disagree or not, so I'm gonna try to
I'm a
play this.
psychiatrist living in Seattle, and I'm here to talk about the most recent executive order ending crime and disorder on American streets, because I fear that it is going to actively kill many of my patients and make the crisis of not actually being able to access mental health services in America exponentially worse. As someone that currently works in community mental health settings, I take care of a lot of patients that are currently or have previously experienced homelessness. And prior to my experience as a psychiatrist, I got a master's degree in health policy, specifically focusing in housing policy, including the effects of encampment sweeps on an individual's physical and mental health. And outside of this, I am an actual expert in civil commitment. As a psychiatrist, that is one of the most difficult and common and challenging things that we do, and so we are actually experts. And so I can say, as a doctor, as a psychiatrist, as a person that has done a lot of research in housing policies, as someone that has loved people that have experienced homelessness, that currently cares for people experiencing homelessness and mental illness, forced institutionalization will not help people. It will actively harm people. And even if that were not the case, we do not have the resources to involuntarily commit every single person experiencing a mental health crisis or homelessness because psych beds are full. We do not have the resources. If they were moved into the hospital, there's not affordable housing available to send them out into. And so all this does is further criminalizes people that are already stigmatized by society, that are already incredibly resource limited. And forced displacements just further traumatizes, destabilizes, and makes recovery harder. Criminalizing survival just because people are outside in a way that is not deemed physically acceptable by society is actually just cruel and unusual punishment. And so all of this is to say that this executive order is under the guise of helping people, but it's actually about disappearing people. And this is just another form of political control. And
Right. So I that was my attempt at trying to find something that was against it. So I don't know. I mean, I can't find no one that is for
Those
it. Everybody,
just in my opinion, those videos seem like fear mongering. So
yeah.
is
Say
there
it again.
is there anything that like breaks down what the bill says? That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I
Thank you.
respect what they're saying, but I'm just trying to get more of a basis for the bill.
There is something. I told DJ, there's something that actually breaks that bill down. All she have to do is look up. Let me see if I can find it. She can actually Google the new homeless bill written by Trump. You should be able to find that because that's what I told her. It was something that actually breaks down each one of those sections.
Jose
So
Perez
just Google it.
Jose Perez says Trump-born billionaires don't know what a poor people has to do every day. Anyway, he don't like poor people. Okay, thank you, Jose, for your comment.
All right, so just so you know, in TikTok, I looked up in agreement for the bill. So just so you know, I'm not just even that last video was me trying to find in agreement for the bill. So I'm not
But
just one-sided on this. I'm trying to find someone that agrees with it. So it's not like I'm just only being one-sided. Go ahead. But go ahead.
I think that we don't have to go to TikTok or YouTube. I think you should just go to the search engine and type in the information, and it'll pull up a breakdown of that bill. Because I agree with you, Mel. That's what I've been saying all of that. That's what I've been saying all of this time.
We have the actual bill right here, so we can read the bill.
But that bill doesn't give a breakdown. It doesn't give a true breakdown of what you're reading and understanding, because if that's the case, the only you looking at it is if it's for all homeless people. If they are homeless and they're indigent, they're going to go to jail and get thrown in. But that's not what that bill is for. That bill is for a certain set of homeless people for certain reasons. And I said the same thing, Mel. I feel like this is a fear-based thing, and they're putting the carriage before the horse. We already got a bunch of homelessness. So if everybody want to go in a circle, homelessness have already been snowballed. What is the resolution? Because we always talk. I don't like talking in circles. What will be a resolution if homelessness have been out of control all of these years and nobody thought that their heart was broken then? But now we're coming with a whole heart of emotions when we're trying to get the country together. So you want us to leave it the same? Like, what can we do? That bill is not to hurt. That bill is to help. If they're a threat to publics, if they're a threat to themselves, what do you want us to do with them? Keep them on the streets being a threat?
Yeah. See. Okay. Let's
Now,
see. Go ahead.
as far as the bill goes, that's why I would say I would like to look at the bill or get a unbiased view of the bill just to get a clear understanding of what's the breakdown.
So, all right. So this is the bill. This is from the White House. This is the actual bill. Can you see it?
Let me see if I can send it to her.
Can you see the bill right here? I'm gonna zoom in on it. Hold on.
But I'm saying the video you were about to show, are they giving more of a breakdown just of the logistics of the bill or no?
It's the news. I don't know whether they're gonna like.
Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. They should be pretty unbiased.
Okay, let's see. Can you see it right here?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Clear homeless camps. The order aims to prioritize civil commitment for people with mental health and.
Can you slow it down? Just play it naturally. Thanks.
A new executive order from the Trump administration is pushing cities to clear homeless camps. The order aims to prioritize civil commitment for people with mental health and substance use disorders, and it directs federal agencies to prioritize funding for higher barrier shelter programs. And the order could have an impact for communities across the Northwest.
Tonight, we're on your side breaking down what this means for Oregon and Washington. In just a couple minutes, we'll dive into how leaders in Washington are responding to the order. First, K2's Christina Giarnelli digs into what power the federal government has over Oregon's civil commitment laws.
At a federal level, civilly committing someone, so taking them to a mental health institution against their will, involves a constitutionally protected right to due process. In Oregon, what a judge has to look at before civilly committing someone is much more lengthy, and the federal government cannot supersede those Oregon laws. Point-in-time counts show homelessness nationwide has been on the rise since 2017. The latest executive order from President Donald Trump vows to address the issue by changing the approach. The order claims most homeless people have mental health issues or substance use disorders and promises to push for them to be civilly committed. Tang Yin, a law professor at Lewis and Clark, says at a national level, institutional rights come into play.
So the Constitution says, you basically have certain rights, and states cannot infringe those rights. And so the key one here we're talking about would be due process, meaning that what does the government have to show before they could commit you against your wishes? What do they have to offer you the ability to do? And typically that would be some sort of hearing.
Oregon has a long list of conditions that have to be satisfied before a judge can order someone to be institutionalized against their will. Yin says the federal government cannot change that.
There's not much the president can do, or even the federal government as a whole can do to force states to give less protection than they want to give. All they can do is say, you have to adhere to the Constitution minimum.
What the Trump administration could do is have federal agents round people up into federal institutions using those less strict federal due process standards. There is not a large federal infrastructure for institutionalizing people, so it is unclear where they would take them if that were to take place. If you want to learn more about federal grants potentially at stake because of this executive order, you can go to our website at k2.com. For now, in Southeast Portland, Christina Giarnelli, K2 News.
Christina, thanks for that. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson, Seattle's mayor, and Senator Patty Murray are all skeptical of the practicality of the order.
Yeah, they say there are not resources needed to carry it out if it isn't held up by a legal challenge. For more, here's Chris Daniels.
It is arguably the most complicated issue of this past decade. How can or should cities get people off the sidewalks and into housing and treatment facilities? The president is now citing public safety as a reason to force the civil commitment of people with a mental illness or living on the streets, and threatening to pull discretionary grants for failing to curb urban camping.
And I don't think, again, the Trump administration really thinks through the practicality of some of these executive orders.
Bruce Harrell is Seattle's mayor, where there are nearly 17,000 homeless people, most of the estimated 31,000 statewide, and where numbers have gone up even as city and the state have spent more than $1 billion to address it. Is the city of Seattle prepared to lose federal grants as a result of this executive order?
we are prepared. And so when we look at our tax policy and our planning policy, we always built in that contingency.
What this is really is just a PR stunt.
Daniel Hornig is a former deputy director of the National Economic Council. There is a certain percentage of the community who says, hey, they think the federal government should get involved.
I'm not against the federal government getting involved. I think that there are ways that the federal government, for example, should be providing more resources to house people, more resources to provide treatment for those who need it, more resources to prevent people becoming homeless in the first place.
What about the flip side of this, that people suggest the federal government does need to step in here because Seattle hasn't done its job?
Well, we're sheltering more people. And if you look at what we did in 2023, for example, over a couple of thousand people we sheltered. You look at 2024, again, approximately a couple of thousand people. In addition to building 33,000 units and 6,500 units of affordable housing.
Chris Daniels reporting there. In a statement, Governor Bob Ferguson said in part, quote, "This is another misguided and harmful executive order from the Trump administration. I'll be working with my team as we start hearing from federal agencies about how they plan to implement this executive order to determine our response." Washington's Attorney General did not respond today to a request for an interview on whether he'll also seek legal action. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, meanwhile, was unavailable for an interview today.
We begin tonight with a live.
Okay. Very good. So, Genesis, what is your interpretation of all this?
Well, my interpretation is that he issued a executive order that is not giving it as much details as it should. You know, it's vague. It should be more detailed. And to marginalize people based on mental illness, like how deep into it do you have to be? When you go into people, everybody that is homeless is not mentally ill. And so I think that to categorize mentally ill and homelessness together is a huge error, and it's dangerous.
But did it say mentally ill of the homeless, or did it say that the homeless were mentally ill? That's the part I didn't capture that part, so I'm just asking.
You're talking about mental illness.
So they're targeting homeless. Are they targeting all homeless people in general? Are they trying to clear the streets, or are they trying to clear out homeless people that have those qualities?
They're trying to clear out the streets of homeless people with mental illness and drug abuser and abusing drugs, and that are a threat to the public and themselves.
Okay, so let's take Skid Row, for instance, and I'm also going to ask you your interpretation. But let's say Skid Row, are they going to clear out the entire street and you can't be out on the street? Or are they going to leave sensible homeless people on the street?
How can you do that?
Hold
on.
That's for you, Queen. I'm just trying to understand.
Let's say that again, Mel, because I know she...
No, I came back from your statement. So what I'm saying is, are they clearing the streets of all homeless people, or are they targeting homeless people with mental illness, drug addiction, other severe problems, or are they going to clear the streets in general, or are they going to leave homeless people on the street that are smart? That's what I'm asking.
So from my understanding of what I'm seeing and hearing, I see them as clearing the streets from homelessness with mental illness and drug abuse. And with those two in hand is when you're a disruption to the public when you're a disruption to the public, or you're a disruption to yourself. That's what I see the bill as being for.
But not every
I don't see the bill as being for regular homeless. Huh?
Okay, so it's not for every homeless person in America, basically.
Correct. That's how I see it. But for some reason, DJ sees it that way, but I don't see it that way. I see the bill targeting a certain level of homelessness, because there's multiple levels of being homeless. Like I said before, you can be homeless because you got a mental illness and you don't want to be in the home. You could be homeless because you're a drug abuser and they don't want you in the home. Plus, you don't want to be there. Or you can be homeless because you're indigent and you don't have the money. I can't see that bill targeting anyone that's homeless because they're indigent. I can see that bill being targeted if you're homeless, you're indigent, but you have your tent in public places where you know your tent isn't supposed to be, or you have your tent in places where it says no loitering. Then I can see where it would turn into something criminal or you'll get a ticket, but not just targeting because you're indigent with no money.
But
I didn't read that in the bill.
Okay, I didn't get a chance to read it, but how does that work? Let's say, for instance, it's a Saturday night, I get drunk and I'm laying on the street. I don't have my ID. Are they going to pick me up and say, oh, this guy looks homeless, and I go through the process? Or is there a better process that they're going to go through to really identify a person and see if they're homeless?
I see if you're just coming home from a club and you're on the side of the street laid out, first, I think it depends on where you're laid out on the side of the street. If you're laid out on the side of the store and you're not supposed to be there, and I believe the cops ride up and you got a no loitering sign, I believe at that point, it's not equate to being homeless. It equates to you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be at.
Okay.
I feel if you're homeless somewhere and you're in some bushes and they see you in those bushes, you get what I'm saying? I think that one thing has to lead to something else.
Right.
Not just targeting you because you're homeless. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I see what's happening with the bill. I think that those videos are fear mongering that we watched earlier. But what I think they're trying to say, now that I heard a little bit more, they're trying to say that certain individuals could use this bill to lock up individuals. And once you get in the system, you may not be able to come back out. You see what I'm saying? That I guess that's what they're trying to say about this bill. It would be hard to decipher. It's up to the police officer how he wants to handle you, I guess, right?
Right. And you know what else
they're trying to say in the video.
Right. And you know what else too, Mel? I also feel like it's almost like if you're doing something, if you're showing a threat to yourself or you're showing a threat to the public and the police come and they see your behavior and that you're a threat, I'm sure a police is going to take you down. It's the same difference as if you're somewhere and a family member is trying to Baker Act you. And when the police come, because you're showing a threat to yourself and you're showing a threat to the community, they're going to take you down too as a Baker Act. And once you get down there, it is up to a doctor at that point. It's the same difference that's running neck and neck. One is just Baker Act and one was presented because of homelessness. But they both go down the same road.
Because you read the bill, I didn't. Is it more about mental illness and drug addiction than homelessness?
It's the homeless that has mental illness, and it's the homeless that are drug addicted.
But they're not going to go out and test all these homeless people, so they must be clearing. They must be clearing the streets of all homeless people, right? That's the only way it really works, right?
So when I read not the bill per se, but it's a section here which I tried to pull it up so that DJ can see it. The way I see it as being presented, if you're causing any sort of a threat, you're in the commission of a threat to harm yourself or harm someone else, I can see where this bill will apply to the individual person because of the circumstances. Or if you're in areas and you're homeless and you're not supposed to be there, I could see how it opens up the doors at that point for a level of interaction.
Okay, but let me ask you this question. Sometimes people lie on you just to get rid of you, right? Is this something that basically someone could say, let's say there's an uncle, he's a drunk in the family. He's out in the street doing drugs a couple of days a week, comes back to mama's house, whatever. The neighbors get sick of him and say, hey, this guy's homeless, get rid of him. He gets picked up because the neighbors are saying, yeah, let's say they're white, they're more believable, right? Can that make a guy that may be in between go out of here? That's what I'm asking.
I feel like when something like that happens, Mel, the way I can see it, it's still, to me, at that point, Homelessness is going to be off the table once the police officer get there. It's the interaction with that person.
Okay.
I think at that, because a police officer is going to have a certain level of understanding and getting down to the bottom. And if they can see there's mental illness prevalent, or they could see that this is a person that's homeless and they're on drugs and they're whatever the case may be, I feel like at that point, it's not about homeless. It's about what the police see or what's being reported back or the behavior.
Okay, so it's more about mental illness, drug abuse is not something designed to get rid of people that are minorities, basically. That's what these other videos were insinuating. Is that your
Correct.
interpretation?
That's my and it's my interpretation of, like you said, because I said it before, it seems like we're rolling down a line of scariness. We're rolling down a line where we're putting the carriage before the horse again. That's the carriage before the horse, instead of letting the bill go and let's see what we can do to clean the streets up. I mean, because how else are we going to know and understand what's really going on? Just leave them homeless? Then what's going to be in place? What do we do then?
So who's going to make the determination? You think it's the police officers?
As far as whether or not they should be taken down?
Right.
I believe it's going to have to come to the police officer, because a regular citizen wouldn't be able to do it. And that's why I say the police officer is going to have to use their discretion as to what they see, what behavior is being, exhibited at that point. Because imagine this, Mel, you homeless and there's nothing wrong. You're just homeless. But a police come and the police see that you're homeless, but someone just called. The police will have a conversation. Okay, what's going on? You're not exhibiting that anything is wrong. You're not exhibiting behavior that you're a threat to the community. You're not showing anything that you're a threat to yourself. What else are they going to book you on?
Right.
I don't see where they're going to book you on anything else. I think it's a scare thing. I think there's a lot of people scared of change. They don't want to see a change. But if you can't come up with a solution and there's a solution on the table, what is the problem? I just don't see it where they're going to try to house 200,000 people for being homeless.
Gold Digger says, will the homeless people be taken to a hospital or mental health evaluation before institutionalized? Officers are not necessarily qualified to make evaluations. What are your thoughts?
Exactly. And I think it will go back to the same thing. They may not be able to evaluate in a certain way as a mental doctor or provider, but they're doing the same thing as if you try to Baker Act someone. Mental is mental, whether you're being Baker Act or you came from the homeless side of it. You're still mental.
Okay, so with the Baker Act, what happens when you're institutionalized because of perhaps a family member? What does it take for an individual to get out of that?
Evaluation from the doctor. Evaluation from a doctor. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it may depends on what state you're in, but right here in Florida, it's between 3 to 5 days that I believe it's 3 days. They'll hold you for 3 days and evaluate you, and they see that there's nothing wrong with you, and they release you back out. If they see that something is wrong with you, they'll hold you.
Okay. Have they expressed what would happen if you're picked up with the bill, and let's say you're just a marginalized person? Maybe it's a mistake. Is it sort of like an entrapment, or not really?
And that's what we're trying to get at now. And I think that's where the scary part is for so many people. And everybody have the right to be scared and upset because of what we've been going through with police brutality and just incarcerating people for no reason. I think it's going to have to, we got to watch the bill play out. And then when the police come, they're going to have to make that decision. They're going to have to see, is this person exhibiting this behavior where they're a threat to themselves or they're a threat to the public or the community?
I think the problem is, and I'm just assuming those women that were speaking were Democrats, but I understand the fear monger, but I think the issue that they're trying to play into is that oftentimes Black people can be targeted. And I guess they're trying to say that this bill sets people up who are minorities to go missing under certain circumstances. So I kind of get where they're going with it. That's why I wanted to see the actual bill to see what it's saying and who it's targeting, because if it is something that's a little sketchy, You know, it could be a scary situation, but I don't see it at face value.
Yeah, I truly, I don't see it like that.
I have the bill right here. So
Okay.
And I can read it. Okay. So
All right.
section 1,
Let's go through it.
purpose and policy. Endemic.
Take the comment down. DJ, take down the comment so we can see it.
Okay. Right. So go back to the bill. Endemic
I'm sorry, before you get started, how big is this bill? Can you just show us an overall view just to see how long we're going to be here?
It's like six sections long.
Oh, okay.
It's not that long.
Okay, great. Oh, this is very simplistic. Okay, great. Let's have it.
Ending crime and disorder on American streets, right? So this is the executive order for July 24, 2025 by authority vested in me, President, blah, blah, blah. So endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, and violent attacks have made our cities unsafe. The number of individuals living on the streets in the United States in a single night during the last year of the previous administration is 2,724, 200,000, was the highest ever recorded. The overwhelming majority of these individuals were addicted to drugs, have a mental health condition, or both. Nearly 2/3 of homeless individuals reported having regularly used hard drugs like methamphetamines, cocaine, opioids in their lifetime. An equal large share of homeless individuals reported suffering from mental health conditions. The federal government and the states have spent tens of billions of dollars in failed programs that address homelessness, but not its root cause, leaving other citizens vulnerable to public safety threats. Shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment will restore public order. Surrendering our cities and citizens to disorder and fear is neither compassionate to the homeless nor other citizens. My administration will take a new approach focused on protecting public safety. Section 2, restoring civil commitment. The Attorney General, in consultation with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, shall take appropriate action too.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Can you stop there? And let's go over that first section that you've already read. Can you pull it back up? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we'll go here.
Okay, so what do you guys think about what you read so far?
I see all mental
drugs, right?
I see. I think where the problem coming in when I look at this bill, I only see all through it just in this one section right here, because you haven't been to the bottom. They're focusing on mental health, mental conditions, drug addictions, drug abusing. And that's where I see it right there. I see the bill geared towards mental, homeless, drug addicting, homeless individuals. That's what I see. I don't see the other side. I don't see that other level of being homeless, which is the indigent, because they don't show indigent here. It only shows those two areas, mental and addiction. That's all I see.
Right. Okay. I see something different.
Break it down.
Endemic vagrancy. Okay. So there's a such thing as endemic. That means that endemic vagrancy is like, so endemic vagrancy, that means you can't find a house no matter, you're just constantly homeless. Disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, and violent attacks have made our citizens unsafe. Okay. Now that could happen if you leave a club at night. You know what I'm saying? All this disorderly, whatever, can happen at any point. Right. So when you say shifting homeless individuals, you are not being specific. You're not saying mentally ill homeless individuals. So
it's at the top of the paragraph. It's in the very first paragraph.
Listen, an equally large share of homeless individuals, right? So here's the thing. The top of what paragraph? Where?
All through this paragraph, section 1, it speaks of mental and addiction.
Okay. are addicted to drugs. Blah, blah, blah. Nearly 2/3 of homeless individuals. So this is like, it's almost like it's putting them into a category, right? Nearly 2/3 of them have used drugs, they have mental illness, this, that, the other. So from that point on, they are lumping homeless individuals into a category of disorderly, everything above this, right? So everything that they're saying up above here, when they discuss homeless individuals, they are saying that this is what they're doing. So in my mind, when I read this, they're not saying that those that have done this, they're saying that nearly 2/3 of homeless individuals report having. So they say all this about people that's homeless, and then they say that nearly 2/3 of them report having regularly used hard drugs and this, that, the other. Large share of homeless individuals report suffering from mental health. So they lump them into a category in these two sentences right here. I'm gonna read it for you. Okay, it lumps homeless individuals into a category. Nearly 2/3 of homeless individuals report having regularly used hard drugs, methamphetamine, cocaine, opioids in a lifetime. An equally large share of homeless individuals reported suffering from mental health conditions. From that point on, this is the description of a homeless individual, right? This is how I'm reading this, right? Because I'm like, okay, so this is they showed what the problem was, then they said this is what a home. So now shifting homeless individuals into long-term settings, institutional settings. So that means that they are putting them into a category of people who are methamphetamine addicts, that they are that they have endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, and everybody that is homeless that's not what they're doing. So to me, when you say this word homeless individuals, that is a category that you said, and then you have verified that throughout your whole statement in the beginning of your whole thing, then made everybody else to be vulnerable people to like safety threats, and then go into it even further by saying that, okay, now let's go into with homeless individuals, let's put them into like homes, and it's going to be humane treatment through appropriate use of civil commitment will restore public order. So you understand what I'm saying? If you make all these statements and then label it as homeless individuals, and then the next paragraph uses homeless individuals to describe what you're going to do with them, that tells me that you are lumping all homeless individuals into this category.
Hey, DJ, you wanna look up and see whether vagrancy is a law or not? You know that's a law, right? And you know what that law is. That's about loitering, public intoxication, drunkenness on the streets. So when you go back to that word, that's actually a law in the United States. That's a law. Look that word up. I'm glad you brought it up because you triggered my mind just then. Look up vagrancy. That is a law. The difference is, let me explain that to you. Just like we don't want illegal immigrants, Trump didn't come up with that law. It's been on the table. Trump just happened to be our white counterpart president that stepped in and putting the pedal to the metal and say, if you're illegal, we want you to leave. He didn't produce the law. He didn't create the law. He's just an enforcer. This word vagrancy is a law that was before Trump came into office. Vagrancy is disorder, loitering, drunkenness. That's a criminal act. That's a criminal act.
Understood. So that endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, all these.
So what else are we talking about?
Violent attack, made cities unsafe. Number of individuals living in the streets. So now what they're going to do is connect homelessness to vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden
But vagrancy is an act, though. It's an act, DJ. It's an act. It's an act of a crime.
Okay.
That's not homeless because you're indigent. Being indigent isn't the crime. The vagrancy of it is when you're homeless and you're loitering, crime. When you're homeless and you're drunk in the street, disorderly conduct, crime. When you're mentally ill and you're a threat to yourself or someone else, crime. But that's a different type of crime. That's not a crime, that's a mental illness. So you need to go away mental illness patients go at. If you're on drugs and you're cutting up, you're stealing, you're begging, panhandling, it's a crime. So I'm trying to understand how do we equate those? I'm glad you brought that word back to me.
Okay, so 2/3 of homeless individuals, right? So that means that so it's not 100%, right? So only 2/3. 2/3. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're going in circles on us.
No, I'm not. I'm not. So what I'm
you pointed out vagrancy. You pointed out the word vagrancy. Vagrancy is a crime. So now we can link them three together. We got vagrancy, which is a crime. We got mental health, which is another situation. And then we got being on drugs and committing crimes while being on drugs and homeless.
Okay,
so I'm trying to understand.
This bill was about the 2/3 of or the people. Hold on. So
you're deflecting.
No, I'm not. So somehow, they started off with vagrancy, disorderly behavior, etc.
Right.
Then they go into 2/3 of homeless individuals reported using hard drugs, an equally large share of homeless individuals reported suffering from mental illness. Now, how many of these are a part of the vagrancy, right? Because vagrancy can have behavior.
That's a whole other question, DJ. You're going in circles on me.
I'm not. Listen to me. What I'm saying is that when you so what they're doing is they're going to connect vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, violent attacks to homelessness.
Yeah. Yes, okay? It's a crime.
Hold on, and then connected to drugs, cocaine, methamphetamines, opioids, and all in their lifetime. In their lifetime.
Is any of those things? Do you want any of those things on your children?
No, listen. That means that they have probably done it within. That does not mean that they're doing it currently. They say within their lifetime, right? Then an equally large share report suffering from mental health conditions. So now drug addiction and then mental health, right?
Well,
and so then they're going to combine this all to describe what a homeless person is, and then from that point they're going to go into shift.
Don't skip. No, DJ. Don't skip that paragraph, DJ. Don't skip that paragraph.
No. Okay. No, I'm not gonna. Here it goes.
No. Let's do one. Go back to that paragraph. Go back to that paragraph. Don't skip the paragraph for the people.
They're going to label these people as homeless individuals. Everything above this thing, vagrancy, drug addiction, all this other stuff, right? They are now to be homeless individuals.
DJ.
Conditions. And then what they're going to do is then label this. And then from that point on, you're going to have a homeless individual, and then they're going to create a whole status of a person called a homeless individual.
Hey, DJ.
Okay.
You long-winded on me. Hey, DJ. At the end of the day, I get it. Hey, DJ, let me ask you a question. That very first paragraph, why you took the paragraph down? That very first paragraph just now. That very first paragraph, when I look at them 15 damn sentences, I can assure you, I wouldn't want my kids associated with that to grow up in it. When you put vagrancy, I'm glad you brought vagrancy back to the table. That's a crime. That's an action. I don't want to be around that. Check. When you put mental illness and homeless on the table, check. When you put homeless and then drug abusing, and then a disruption to the public, disruption to yourself. Looking at that one sentence, glad you took us back to that. That one paragraph right there with about 8 different sentences, if I can look at that correctly, maybe 1 or 2 not there. Why would we still be going through this type of homelessness on that paragraph? Why would this bill not attack this type of homelessness? That's a whole bunch of action right there. You don't think that need help? See, you want to skip to shifting, but let's go to the top. Let's stay in that paragraph before you go to shifting. It's for homeless people that have issues or concerns. Vagrancy is a crime. Trump didn't create that law. It was already on the table since 1930.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that if this law was only about that, then he would have made it plain instead of it being like
It's plain.
legally.
It's plain.
He would have said,
It gives you all the definitions, DJ. It gives you the definition of vagrants. It gives you the definition of homelessness with mental health, and it gives you definition of homeless, drug abusing. All, if it's an issue with the public, you're loitering, you're stealing, you're interruption. What do you want us to do at this point instead of going in circles and snowballing it even more? I want to look at my United States before I leave this damn earth. I'm going to tell you the truth. Get the illegal immigrants out of there. I'm not changing that. Do something about the homelessness. All this time, homelessness have been on the table. Nobody had anything to say. Then you get a president here that's trying to get something going, and we want to still go back. Why can't we go forward?
Mel, tell me what you think about what I might be trying to bring. Can you understand where I'm coming from, or where I like?
Okay, so, well, I get it. I understand the picture, but here's the thing, right? So we have this girl from In Vogue that says she lives in her car. Is she homeless?
In her car, she's not bothering anybody. She's on that one level of homelessness. And if she says she's homeless and she's in her car, I would agree.
So she is homeless or she's not? According to this bill, is she homeless?
If she's sleeping in her car?
Yeah.
I would call her homeless. I would say she's homeless.
Okay, so let's look at it again. Okay, there's a whole movement of people that are living in their cars, and the reason why is because a lot of these people are having financial problems coming from this and the previous administration. I mean, just life in general, right? What about all of the people that live inside of there's a whole new movement of people that live in their cargo vans. Are they homeless?
Yep. Yes. No, I wouldn't think they homeless. I think individually you have to say you're homeless, because those vans have become those little trailers and stuff like that, and cars that you ride, and they've become a part of the way people live. Why? Because the rent in the economy is so high right now.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. All right, let's take a guy, and theoretically he's what they call a crackhead, right? And based on what you're saying, you have to say you're homeless, right? What if he doesn't feel he's homeless? What if he's lying to the authorities? Who makes the call of the determination that he's a homeless person?
And I think that's where the disruption coming in, Mel. You know why? Because it has to be a homeless of act. Because you're homeless and you're sleeping in your car. That don't make that illegal. That make you homeless. But if you're homeless and you're sleeping in your car and you're parked somewhere that you shouldn't be at, that's where the crime part of it come in at. Not the fact that you're homeless, the fact that where you're at while being homeless. If you're a homeless person and you're a crackhead and homeless, you're not a threat. But if someone called on you and the police come and that police see that you're a threat and you're on drugs, at that point, I don't think they're going to take you to jail for being homeless. I think they're going to take your ass to jail, but for more so public intoxication.
Okay, so we've only covered the first part of this bill, so I don't know what the rest is going to say. But it starts off not talking about homeless people; it's talking about criminals and criminal situations. And then they say, "Oh, well, we noticed 2/3 of these people, homeless people, fit this category, right? So now we want to haul these people into institutions." Okay, so here's my question to you: a lot of people are becoming homeless, right? It's pretty much a label. They can't pay their mortgage. A lot of times people get cancer, they go through a divorce. Now they're technically homeless. They do not have a home. Do they get hauled off into the institution according to what this is saying? This is what I'm asking.
And right there, I say no.
Who's gonna make the determination? What if you get a prejudiced guy, right? I'm from the South. Prejudiced guy says, "Oh, yeah, this guy looks like he's homeless or whatever," and they put him into this program. I'm saying, who defines the moment?
And I think, see, honestly, Mel, that's like two questions in my ears. The reason why it's two questions is just because you're homeless is not why you're going to jail. Being homeless, what did you do for police to have to approach you? Are you somewhere that you don't need to be? Are you doing something that you shouldn't be doing? Or did someone call the police because of an act?
Okay, Genesis, read that paragraph where it starts off talking about institutionalizing homeless people. This is where it gets tricky, though. I must say. Let's read it. Shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment. So it gets messy because who gets to make the determination? Because just because you fall on your hard luck, you may be homeless, but it doesn't mean you're on drugs or it doesn't mean you
Right.
have mental problems. So what I'm saying is
Right.
who is defining this? Because if you get a prejudiced person, right, defining it, you might be in the system, is what I'm saying. But I'm only going by what I've interpreted so far, and this is just my interpretation. But they're saying it, let's do it this way, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, right? But let's go back to the first paragraph. Let me show you how tricky this is, right? Genesis,
Mm-hmm.
Genesis, the first paragraph, please. I guess she's not there. Okay, Genesis. Okay,
Got
so
it.
go down to maybe it's not. There you go, section 1. I'm sorry. So they start talking about all of these criminal acts, perhaps, right? Endemic, whatever, disorderly behavior, boom, boom, boom. Now replace homeless with black people. Just do it and see how it flows so nicely. I'm not saying that this is where it is going, but I'm just saying,
Right.
oh, we notice, right, that 2/3 of black people do these behaviors. Um, okay, let's institutionalize them. I'm not saying it's going there, but the way this is
Right.
written, they're just saying, oh, these crimes are happening on the street. Oh, and we notice that homeless people do drugs and they have mental problems. They must be doing it. But in reality, we know it's the next door neighbor teenage son that goes to a house every night and he's out here shooting, killing, doing drugs too. So what I'm saying is this is starting to look a little bit slanted, and this is just my opinion. But the messy part is when they label people homeless, it gets tricky because I know people that get a divorce. There's a lot of men on the street that I know that go through a divorce. The wife gets the house. Now he's forced out into the street, right? He can't pay his child support. Does he get institutionalized? That's the question.
That's not what that I don't see this bill gearing towards you just because you're homeless. This bill that I see is geared towards you being homeless in the act while you're homeless.
Right, right. Okay. So
You get
maybe it's
Mhm.
precipitated by a criminal act. They're not just going to go clear out homeless people. See, there's a
Right.
difference here, right? If there's a criminal act and that's what ignites this whole confrontation or incident with the police, that's different. But if they make a bill and they say, hey, we don't want to see these encampments, we don't want to see people laying on the street, we don't want to see homeless people in general, right? Then
Yes.
that's a different story, right?
And that is
Right.
not what this thing is saying. It's not saying that if you do a criminal act, then you'll be removed. It's saying, listen, restoring civil commitment. Okay. Now, civil commitment means being able to put someone into a mental institution for a long term stay if they are considered to be homeless. So it says shifting homeless individuals. It does not say shifting homeless individuals that are mentally ill, shifting homeless individuals that are drug addicts. It says shifting homeless. So here's and I'm this is what I was trying to say is that it gives this long description of what they want to equal a homeless individual, and then boom, they describe the homeless individual, and then they said homeless individuals. And then here, shifting homeless individuals into long term. Boom. Humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment will restore public order. Surrendering our cities and citizens to disorder and fear is neither compassionate to the homeless nor other citizens. It does not say homeless that are mentally ill. It doesn't say homeless that are on drugs. It says the homeless, right? The homeless, right? So this could be anyone homeless, right? So my administration will take a new approach focused on protection, public safety. So then, restoring civil commitment let's go into that. So you see where I'm like, okay, so I might have told things that showed more fear mongering in my videos, but I think that these people have a better understanding of what is happening. That one person being a lawyer, the first person to what this is really saying. You know what I'm saying? It's easy for us to no, this is not saying that, but it's like no, that's what it's saying, exactly what it's saying. You know, so that's what I wanted to be clear about. It's saying what it's saying. You know.
So why don't you do this, DJ? Because you just showed from a news station that is of Democrat. Go to Fox News and see how they relate to it. Go to the Republic. Go to Fox and see how Fox relates to this same bill. See, I feel like wherever the mindset of the person is how you're going to duplicate this bill. See where my mindset at, and I'm not Republican or Democrat. But right now, to get rid of certain things, I'm rocking with the Republicans, and I'm not taking it off the table. I'm ready to see some light around here. I'm not ready to stay in the dark and be emotional. These are people talking right now. They're talking on the emotional side to me. We have a problem with homelessness. A lot of these homeless people don't even want to be in buildings. They don't want to go home. They don't want to live inside a house. They want to live out the door. The problem with it is you cannot live anywhere out the door. You got to live in certain areas if you want to be homeless. And these are the things that go with it. So why, if you're homeless, what would be the reason why they really aren't in buildings? Some, because they honestly don't have the money. Others, they're mental. Others, they're on drugs. We're still looking at those same three categories. A police not going to walk up to me because I'm homeless and then try to put me in jail. I just don't see it like that. I see the bill geared to where it need to gear. Huh?
Yeah, that's the picture that the original videos were trying to depict. But for, I think at the base level, it's about mental illness and drug abuse, right?
That's what I see. See if you can pull something, DJ, from Fox News to see how they interpret the bill. I'm interpreting it just from my eyes, not of Democrat and not of Republican. I take Trump off the table. I'm going to be honest with you. I see what supports the people. There's a lot. Hey, what do you think about this, Mel? There's a lot that don't support the bill. But what would you think an offer would be to get homelessness under control right now?
A good solution is what you're saying?
Yes.
I think it's going to be in a direction similar to what they're doing, because here in New York, actually, it's all over the news. We had 2 homeless guys. I think they killed a off-duty police officer, and everybody's going crazy at the same courthouse that I was at with Diddy's case for the last 8 weeks rather.
Whoa.
So yeah, they went out and I don't want to describe it, but they shot him in the head. Yeah, it's really bad. And they were living in a homeless encampment. They were arrested there. You can find the video. It's all there.
Yeah, I'll go look that up.
It is a major problem. It's a major concern. Something has to happen. I think the fear mongering part of it, though, is trying to, it may be overrated, I think, to a certain extent. Just saying they're going to pick up random people, but who knows what could happen. But I think for the most part, clearing the streets of homelessness is very important for safety.
President Trump signed an executive order this week calling on states and cities to end endemic vagrancy, which is not something I got from a beach chair at spring break. The order calls for, quote, shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment. Wow. This is exactly the kind of thing that could put Seattle out of business. And it notes the federal government and the states have spent tens of billions on failed programs that address homelessness, but not its root causes, leaving other citizens vulnerable to public safety threats. In other words, their license to punch kids in the face is getting revoked. Because for too long, we were told we must sympathize with the violent and deranged and not the people they prey upon. Call it suicidal empathy, where liberals' excessive compassion undermines our own self-preservation. It's true, for every tourist pushed in front of a New York subway train, violent criminals get a free Panera bread bowl. That's a joke. That's not really happening. According to the White House, nearly 300,000 people were sleeping on the streets each night last year under President Joe Biden, while a few hundred were sleeping under Bill Clinton. But Trump talked about finally doing something about it during the 2024 campaign.
When I'm back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets. We want to take care of them, but they have to be off our streets. There's nothing compassionate about letting these individuals live in filth and squalor rather than getting them the help that they need. We need professionals to help them.
So now he's following through. Another promise made and kept. Of course, a lot of people will oppose this because he's the one doing it. Even though for decades, politicians said they'd fix homelessness, but never had the guts to get it done. And so we were led to believe that this grim reality was simply inevitable. But Trump's focusing on returning a decent life to Americans, including the mentally ill. Once again, he says, you don't have to live like this. Of course, homeless advocacy groups will push back because suffering is a cash cow. There's a whole entire homeless industrial complex of NGOs that pay themselves fat salaries while making the problem worse. Remember when Bill de Blasio gave his wife $900 million taxpayer dollars to address these issues? And that cash disappeared faster than a plate of nachos at The View. Hell, if I gave my wife $800 million, at least our walls would be changed from eggshell white to cream. In California, an audit last year found that $24 billion was spent over 5 years without ever tracking its effect on homelessness. The cash vanished and the suffering continued. Really, they should run Gavin Newsom out of town on a rail if they could only build a rail. Of course, the ACLU has already lashed out saying it's targeting people. But it's not targeting anybody, it's protecting everyone. As the White House notes, the goal is to ensure that Americans feel safe in their own communities and that individuals suffering from addiction or mental health struggles get the help they need. In this case, libs should just stop with the destructive compassion and get the out of the way. Trump is doing the things they won't do because such actions threaten their status as the good liberal. They'd rather virtue signal on their own behalf than actually help others. But no one in their right mind sees a guy covered in living on a subway platform in 90-degree heat and says, you know, it's great, we're so compassionate. No, they say, someone better get Don Lemon back on his feet.
That was the other side's view. What do you think?
Do we see that?
Huh?
You see what he said? I mean, even though that didn't come from the news, that came from somebody person, I wanted the actual Fox News. However, look what we're up against. He said it. There's nothing that he even repeated that says that this is talking to that level of homeless that's indigent. They're focusing on the mental health side of it and the drug addiction. But I do agree with him because it had Trump on the front of it. That's why it's the problem, because Trump is at the head of it. But a person like me, it's not about Trump. It's about what I'm reading, and it's about what pushes us ahead and who need help, and somebody that's actually putting a pen to the paper instead of just spewing it out their mouth. That's why I'm rocking with him right now, because when he slip up, I'm gonna go against him. I got the right. I don't got to be Republican or Democrat or nonpartisan. I just have to say it. That's where I'm at. Not about Trump.
Okay, so you actually agree with a lot of what Trump is doing, basically.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with him. I'm agreeing with him, Mel, because guess what? I don't know if you're a Democrat or Republican, whatever. I just say I'm me. And and what I'm going to start doing and making sure I do, because I've been asleep a long time. I'm talking about a long time, and I'm woke now. And I'm woke because when I look at the bills that Trump is presenting, those bills show me that it's for the people. He's not getting rid of illegal immigrants because it's for him. He's not getting rid of illegal immigrants because he's finna put all black people in jails and send them out the country. I mean, what country y'all gonna send me to? China gonna say I'm not from there, not my big ass. Japan, Mexico, it don't matter what country you send me to, they're gonna know for a fact I'm not from there. So these bills not written against me. These bills are written to help us get out of debt. They help us see the road ahead of us. We got too much on the ground right now, including homelessness. And I'm walking with him 1,000% on this. But let him slip up, Mel. I'll go against him in a minute, though.
So you don't think they're trying to say that homeless people are criminals?
I don't feel like they're saying they're criminals unless they commit criminal acts.
Okay, but it's according to what we read. Do you pick that up anywhere there or no?
No, I don't pick it up. I don't pick up that they're just putting homeless people in jail and so forth because they're criminals. I mean, but if you commit a criminal act while being homeless, then you got to get put in that particular category.
Okay.
As being homeless.
Okay, I see. DJ Genesis, what are your thoughts?
I just don't like the label homeless individual, because just like you said, it's almost like you put another like label on there, Latino,
right,
black person. So at some point, now you label a person a homeless individual, and now they're underneath a certain like name, and so that person can be considered that label, and then now whatever laws that are like underneath that can be considered. So what I would say is that I don't think it's fair to label someone.
But DJ, how could you not label them as homeless if they're homeless? Like the video you just showed, the people laying on the ground and all the tents out the door. Would you not classify that as homeless people?
I mean, if that's where they choose to live at, like they're in their mind, they have a home. They're living in their tent. So it might be their tent might not be considered labeled a home according to the government, but they're living in that's their domicile. That's where they live at. So I think that we have gotten away from giving people like their natural rights to like live how they want to live. If a person,
but you don't have natural rights to do that though. Not if we already got laws in place.
If a person wants to live in a tent, let them live in a tent. Like, why is it that we have to like put our thoughts on how they live? Like, we want to. It does not. You don't know whether that person who lives in that tent is really like the one that's doing all these bad things to people. I mean, I actually had
they're not targeting them though.
I had a group home, right? And I had a person that was schizophrenic. He used to go to the store every day and beg, right? But he had a house to live in. He lived in a house. So it's not to determine whether or not, okay, well, you're living in a tent. Let's like everybody in this tent thing, they're all vagrants. They're all like doing like crime and begging and this, that, the other. And you guys are indigent and let's throw you into a mental ward. That's the part that I don't agree with.
Yeah, because I don't see it like that though. I don't see just because you're living in the tent, but if your tent in the area that's prohibited and you're not supposed to be there, then what do we do about that? It's not you being in the tent that's the problem. It's you being in the tent in the wrong place that seems to be the problem. Because if your tent was in your family backyard or your family front yard and you still homeless in that yard and that's a place where your tent can be legally, then I don't see why they're going to come and take you to jail unless the family said you did something that's active, like a crime. You did something, you committed something.
Yeah, but most people have their tents out somewhere behind a store or out on the streets of Skid Row or what have you, and it looks like that's what they're trying to eradicate. So,
right. Do you think they should be allowed to be where they want to be at, Mel?
Oh, absolutely not. And like I said, it's very dangerous. For a time, even here, when they had people coming across the borders and they were basically busing them to New York City, a lot of and this was under the last administration, they were putting them up in hotels, and the crime rate, it was crazy in local towns that are usually peaceful. But now all that's gone away. So in the same note with the homelessness, I mean, I think something needs to be done to clear it up, or else we're going to keep having major problems. So it needs to be addressed, no doubt about it.
Exactly. I just feel that, and I want everybody to understand, it's not that I don't have compassion for people that are homeless, but it's not the homeless that I'm seeing as the problem. It's the act of being homeless. Not because you're indigent, but if you're homeless, indigent, and you're doing something and you're hindering the public, or something where you can hurt yourself, you're committing an act while being homeless. And what do we do about that? They have to be treated like anybody else.
Even when they're not homeless, though. That's the thing.
But here's the issue too, right? Who's going to go out and interview the people who are home challenged and say, give them an evaluation to see if they're, maybe sane or insane and all of that? I think for the most part, they want to clear the streets, period. I could be wrong, but I think that's where they're heading with this, right?
I think, again, when you say it like that, Mel, it sends me back to, they're going to treat that situation the same way they would treat that situation if someone tried to Baker Act you. When you get Baker Act, that Baker Act come from someone calling and reporting. Once that police officer come, I'm not sure maybe what different states may have different rules, but here in Florida, if you're being Baker Act, I've seen times where police come by themselves and decide whether or not you need to go. And then I've also seen them bring other people with them, which is for them to do like a different type of evaluation, and then they decide. And then I've seen where police take them straight to the courthouse, and then the judge decide should they be Baker Act.
Well, FYI, this law supersedes the Baker Act. It's a federal law. Like, it's going to supersede that act. So therefore, it will override that act, and so therefore, it will not be no Baker nothing. It'll be you are homeless, you are indigent, whatever, and based on this law, we can bring you in if you have any previous drug addiction, previous mental illness diagnosis, whatever, because that's the whole thing. They're going to get all your records and be able to keep those records. And if you have any record of that, then they will be able to keep you and hold you in a facility indefinitely. Right. Welcome to the panel, Reverend Green. Are you there?
Hey, Rev.
You there?
He probably stepped away for a second. But while we waiting on him, DJ, so the reason why we brought up Baker Act is because Mel was saying if someone called, like when we were talking about the area that you're in, at that point, would that be considered a form of being Baker Act? Because if somebody called on you, if it's a family member, because not everybody can just Baker Act somebody. You got to be a certain member of someone in order to even put Baker acting on the line. You got to be a family member. You got to be a certain member for someone to Baker Act you. Anybody can't Baker Act you. Hey, Rev.
Hey, sweetie.
How you doing?
Not bad, yourself?
I'm doing okay. DJ was asking you, did you have anything to say?
Hello. Hey, Rev.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of you. Should be concerned. I think homelessness is a loaded term. I mean, if you have an address, what is your address? Usually it's your name. I'm Joe Smith of this location, 32 Forest Street, you know? So in a court of law, you would say, my name is, state your address, your name and address, you know? And if you don't have all that, I believe that's going to be, you're going to be eligible for all the home to be labeled as a homeless person. Simple as that. You're gonna have to have identification, documentation. There's a lot of people who live with other people. They may not have their name on the lease or the property, but they're technically still homeless. So it's like there's different levels of homelessness. But the homelessness that we know, I believe, is on the street, the classic sense.
Right.
Being vagrants.
Agreed.
And I think that's exactly where this fits in for now. I don't want to go too far into the fear. But not everybody has the Real ID Acts either. I mean, the Real ID license. Not everybody has that. And
a lot of people that are homeless don't even have IDs.
Exactly. And I think it's coming down to, there's going to be certain places where you have to present who you are for real. There's a lot of bankless people. They use their cell phones and stuff like that. And maybe coming down to an end. You're really going to have to put some more certification and verification. Where are you really at? Not just your thumbprint to open up your phone. Not just your face to prove who you are, your facial recognition. It's going to be a lot more to it.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Welcome to the panel, Rack. Did you want to say something?
Hey everyone,
Welcome,
can you hear
everybody.
me?
But where do you think the hard-hitting area will be?
You say that again.
Where would the specific area be? The first place.
You mean like the state?
Yeah.
It's rolled out. It's going to be rolled out across the whole United States, but I believe it's going to be the heavy hit areas like over there in like Seattle, Washington, California, New York. It's going to hit heavy. That's where you're going to see a bunch of that. I think that's where the concerns are coming from because you have so much homelessness in actually certain states. Georgia and Atlanta is horrible.
Like the lady said, Democratic areas, Democratic run area, Democratic places.
Blue states and blue cities.
Blue states. Rack, did you want to say something?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thank you all so much. I appreciate what y'all doing. These topics are amazing. Homelessness, like that's huge. Little bit of background. I currently been doing this for like 6 years. I work as a probation and parole officer.
Okay.
My background is in mental health. And when I do intakes and assessments, typically it's for those who are paroled, catch new cases, and part of the assessment is to assess for their needs. When people are institutionalized or go to prison, the issue is they're not required to do treatment in facility, right? And I think that's part of the reason why the recidivism rate is so high. And this topic is not just around, criminalizing folks. If I had it the way I wanted, me coming out of California, I've been in California for decades, and the homeless rate has increased over the past 20, 30 years. But when I go to the local park, I don't just see kids playing out there and having fun playing ball. I see folks that got their towels up, their shirts up in the windows in the car. They live in their vehicles. here's what I think about this policy kind of doing assessments for mental health. Anybody who is facing homelessness, people who are in public housing. Well, let me ask you guys this as a panel, and I'm gonna pause real quick. Is there a need for kind of netting through folks who are utilizing housing for bettering themselves? Say, for instance, a person who smokes weed all the time, or is smoking other things, other substances that might affect their mental health. Should they continue receiving public housing? Other issue I've seen is when you have people that work in the government. California has a large Hispanic population. I'm not downing anybody, but it's a strong inference that when you work in these facilities, you work in these county jobs, it's a possibility that people are being discriminated, giving vouchers to who they feel they should give a voucher to. You can assess the paperwork. There are more people who are facing homelessness because they can't get into an apartment. They can't get into housing. Right now, there is a 2.5, 3 times your monthly salary required to even be considered to get housing. So if the average price in California, well, I'm out of Long Beach, is anywhere from a 1-bedroom that can range from $1,500 to about $3,000 a month. This is just local LA County. This is not even the suburbs. If a person makes $3,000 a month, there's no way they're going to qualify for getting that apartment. They don't have money. And you can drive through the city and see signs that say habla español, and you can see signs that say contact so-and-so in Spanish. So there's a whole lot of divisive discrimination that's going on. If I said, let me look at Trump, his policy. I think he's literally going through doing a whole lot of filtering. Now, the filtering that I think is necessary, let's figure out who's here legally, who's getting the funds, who's getting the HUD benefits, and how long have they been getting the benefits. And then let's figure out how to put a halt to that, because you want to start dealing with folks that are native. I mean, taxpayers. People have been paying taxes for decades. For me, my single fatherhood started when I was in my late 20s. It was very scary for me. And I had to raise my son on my own. I was I was like, in 2003, I applied for Section 8 and I never got picked up. And here I am as a student working full time. I'm going to school full time. How is it that nobody in those offices picked that application up and say, hey, this is a male, he's XY years old, he's put down, he has one dependent. That is an ideal candidate for somebody who's going to school full time, trying to get that degree. And basically my plan would be to finish my degree, close out that HUD account, and then get my own spot. And I'm a homeowner. I'm a second-time homeowner now because I went through the fire. I went through the struggle. I had to be conscious that, hey, it's a possibility that I was put to the side and discriminated against. And I'm not pulling no victim card whatsoever at all.
You're not.
The problem is I feel like the whole government system is disorganized. The money has been disproportionately issued to a lot of people who do not need it long term. It should be a case plan, a case manager set in place with the person who's getting the services to help them with job placement, training, certification. Me as a parole officer, that's one of the first things I look for with my clients. I hook them up with felony-friendly jobs, free training and certification, because what I want to see them do in the next 6 to 8 months to a year is to first and foremost be compliant, get on low status of supervision, and working full time and having jobs. Now, what does this have to do with this homeless situation?
A lot.
It has increased so much because of how money is poorly distributed. how funds are not being supervised and managed. And I gotta say this, I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna turn the mic back over. We as a people have kind of dropped the ball too, because there's no way a person should be on Section 8 housing and HUD for 10, 15, 20 years without seeing the end result, which is what we're seeing right now. Mismanagement and funds is costing everybody. It's not just happening to a small proportion of people. To be in California and to just see the homelessness, it can take a toll on your mental health as someone who's working full time, who has a place to stay. My apartment in California, I had a 1-bedroom when I was paying $1,600 a month. This was just the last 2 years ago. This
or
is
a 1-bedroom apartment, $1,600.
Well, let me just put the whole picture together. I needed $3,500 just to move in. Now, granted, the dude was real cool. He was real mellow. I got blessed because the politics are so sick right now, where if Trump is looking at this from a socioeconomic perspective, he must understand that rent caps, discrimination in housing is a real thing. And so this homeless thing is not just about people who are on drugs, who are chemically dependent. If you want to look at that, people have to realize that trauma, unprocessed, adverse experiences need to be addressed. Now, this is what I've seen happen. In order for you to get local mental health treatment, you got to qualify for it. How do you qualify? I, as a case manager, therapist, a psychologist, must diagnose you first. Medi-Cal will not pay or cover any of your expenses unless you have a diagnosis. And if that diagnosis is not followed through and treated, it needs to have an outcome. A lot of people who are on the streets and homeless because they're on drugs and things like that, it's circumstantial. And I think that because we don't have a system that's partially responsible for getting people treatment and sobriety, that's part of the problem. But with that being said, I'm going to throw that back to you people. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this conversation, even for a little bit, because this is a real issue. It's not too many people who are willing to have intelligent and inviting conversations about it and can be solution driven at the same time. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's what it's about. I agree. And DJ, yes, the rent is horrible. It's even worse. Mel here, it's even worse in New York. But Mel, I heard that there's a lot of vacancies there now.
Yeah,
they're moving down to Texas and running up the rent down here. Trust me. Oh my God.
Yes, in Florida too. It's horrible. I get them. No, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. But I think we can clear the floors a little bit.
But
what you was gonna say, Mel?
I really love what Rock said. Go ahead, Mel.
No, I was just saying, what is the way forward once the people are taken into the system? That's the real question.
They said that they will provide. I think it's right there in the bill where they'll provide them. They'll provide stuff for them. And that's where Genesis read, where they read it again, Genesis. It was something about they'll provide. That was the long term. That was the long term form of it. I think it's up some. Is it up?
Right. So what happens is that, okay, so Section 2, restoring civil commitment. The Attorney General, in consultation with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, take appropriate action to seek, in appropriate cases, the reversal of federal state judicial precedents. So here's the thing. So now it's hard to read this all the way through and not, because it's like you're gonna like reverse federal or state judicial precedents and the termination of consent decrees that impede the United States policy of encouraging civil commitment. So it's hard to read this because it's like, no, like everything that was in place beforehand, they're going to make the state be able to terminate anything that allowed you to say that you cannot commit a person. Commitment of individuals with mental illness who pose a risk to themselves or public or are living on the streets, they cannot care for themselves. So that means that if my cousin or whatever decides to live on the street, I can actually call the state on them, and then they will be all the 5150 laws, all this is gone.
Well,
is your cousin
mental illness? So mental illness.
Right. Does your cousin have mental illness?
Well, I mean, I had a mental illness home. So here's the thing. What happened is that something would go down. You would go through the hospital, then come to a home like mine, and then you would stay in the house, and then it's a matter of if you're around these people, you know that they are not people that don't understand themselves. They're not. It's almost like you're treating people with mental illness as if they are not able to understand or know anything, and just put them into a commitment. You're going to put them into a group, a home, or a involuntary situation where they're in a hospital or whatever. That's the part I don't agree with, because so number one, seek inappropriate cases. Okay, so inappropriate cases, the reversal of federal or state judicial precedents and the termination of consent decrees that impede the United States policy of encouraging civil commitment. So that means that all those laws that you said that existed before, that that you if I don't want to get committed and I just want to live my life, you know what I'm saying, because I might be depressed or whatever, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to hurt someone. I just might be whatever, bipolar or manic depressed. Now this removes that cover from you and says that if someone says that I am, then you get to, I can put you into a place, and it'll be a long-term institutional setting. So
but I think you're going so far with it, DJ. You're going too far with it. I mean, if you're mental ill, if you're a patient, if you're homeless, and you got mental illness, but you're not bothering nobody, they're not coming up to you, taking you to nowhere because you got a mental illness. They're bothering you if there is a act of being homeless and there's mental illness, and it's a threat to the public or it's a threat to you. You are welcome to be homeless as long as you're homeless in areas where you can be homeless at and you're not bothering the public.
I don't think that's what this is saying. I'm sorry. I don't
Point out the part where you seen the other part. Point out what you see that's agreeing with what you're saying. Because I don't see it. I don't.
If you're saying a homeless individual, right, and you're making them into a class of people, right, and then you are from that point on diagnosing them as a homeless individual, then all these things that apply to a homeless individual can be put onto them, and there is no what are we talking? I don't agree with this is not. I'm sorry, maybe I don't know.
Can I chime in real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay. When a person gets hospitalized, right? Just say, for instance, they get hospitalized because something went on in the situation, law enforcement responded. They get placed on a 72-hour hold. The reason why they get placed on a 72-hour hold is because the doctors have an opportunity to assess via questionnaire, behavioral observation, and maybe some sample or novice medication. Now, they cannot hold them legally after 72 hours. They have to be released to an exit plan. So sort of like young lady on the panel who has a placement. What happens is they'll reach out to a resource like her and say, hey, we got somebody who is in need of housing resources with special needs, such as co-occurring disorders, such as mental health and substance issues. You can take them or you cannot take them for X amount, but that's voluntary. They don't have to. And I think part of this order here is saying, yo, for those who have a record of 5150 diagnosis or, you know, the 72-hour holds, they may be your first group of folks that have been who are going to be pulled off of the homelessness situation and placed in some type of placement. Now, I don't know that for sure, but this wording is saying their right to, you know, not give consent may be revoked if these folks are still in the same situation. Not sure about that, but I think that's where they want to start. And the second piece is, again, if they're saying, yo, we want to get with everybody who's on housing to find out what their benefit status is. And then I'm thinking in the short run, they might start doing random UAs. Literally, if you come down to your monthly housing appointment or bi-yearly, they may require you to take a drug test. If you have a dirty urine and you are on substance uses, that's going to be the first phase and you getting treatment. If you choose not to do treatment, then you might forfeit your housing. I mean, I think of it like this way. What should people be doing when they get blessed with housing? Taking business, getting your career started, saving some bread. You shouldn't be chilling and partying. I mean, the countless numbers of people who, you know, I'm not saying one is better than the other when it comes to partying and having fun, but there's a certain limit. But there is a very sober level of accountability where you don't want to be homeless. You don't want your kids to face homeless. You don't want to be evicted. So what do? You become proactive in your thinking, your emotional state. Let me figure out what I'm going to do in this blessed 2 years of my life. I got kids. Let me get a career. And, you know, Trump is saying, yo, what are these case managers? What are these housing specialists actually doing? Are they being proactive and saying, hey, look, ma'am, sir, you got 2 years. We're going to create an action plan for you. We got to have this done in a year. We got to have this done in a year and a half. Oh, by the way, do you have any substance abuse? Right. And then if, you know, it's so many positive avenues that can take place with this type of action. But too many people I think people are lazy sometimes. I think they choose a victim route rather than accountability. And if, you know, having kids is a huge gamble in life. If you're not able to take care of your babies or whatnot, this romance shit got to be kicked out the door. And you got to think about life. I mean, a lot of when people get to that route where they're just, okay, how do you determine why people become homeless? And, you know, the issue people don't want to deal with too is it is such a thing as housing discrimination. There's so many components why this situation is happening, but I guess they want to start at the bottom. Let's figure out who has some legitimate mental health issues, who's been in crisis before, who's been on the 72-hour holds, and now they on the street. Let's focus on them first. Let's see some visible improvements in these states that are high risk for homelessness. Let's get this under control first. Okay, boom. So those who have been on housing, let's figure out a proactive way to prevent this from happening to them. And I think that's a pretty good trickle down action plan. I just feel like, yo, why you wait so long to get this done? You know, this is a sample. And I don't think anybody has done this before. I think that housing has been a long-term crutch for a lot of people who didn't learn how to take advantage of it, get in and get out. I got a friend of mine. I'll stop here. She was on housing for her 2 boys, but she was going to school for her bachelor's degree. And then she got her master's degree. She was named one of the best human resource specialists because she's also a business owner in Forbes magazine last year. So that's an example of somebody that says, you know what, I see the end that I want early on in this type of government assistance. Is not going to be my long-term plan. I'm not going to be on this all forever. And she finished well. And that was one of the most inspirational situations I've seen someone use the housing assistance effectively. So I'll just throw it back on y'all, and thank you for the time.
Hold on a second, Raj. Let me ask you a question. Let's go back to section 2, Genesis, if you don't mind. I want to ask him a question. Section 2.
You're asking me?
Raj, yeah. Okay, no, go back up again. I'm sorry. Let's see. Where it talks about institutionalized individuals. Genesis, go back up a little bit more. Right there, shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment. What does that look like at your level, being that you're in the business?
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you.
There's a lot of people who, again, they refuse treatment, both mental health and substance treatment in facility. It is currently against the law to force someone to get treatment. It doesn't matter how severe their mental health state is. And what the institutions do when a person becomes irate, there's a difference between general depression and chronic depression. Chronic depression means you cannot stop, you are completely overwhelmed, and you are unstable. General means I lost my job, I'm mad, I'm stressed out. Now, the resolution for general is to go rebuild your resume, throw it out there, get another job, your general depression is now resolved. But there are countless people who are chronically depressed. They have schizo illnesses that are generational that have not been addressed. And, you know, I used to work in prison as well. So when you see people like this, they're placed in a special housing unit. They are not in general population. And so when they're in there, they may have many episodes of crises, and they have to be restrained. They have to be forced to be what's the name for it? Chemically restrained. In other words, they have to utilize medication for them intravenously or through the needle because they're refusing treatment. Only in the crisis situation will they have to receive a sedation, but they're released back into the community. So when you read shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment, well, think of it like this. If a person who has a mental health issue and they're unstable and not treated are approached by the police, you have to either have a mental health specialist on the scene. And, you know, if you have to restrain that person, you still have to wait for the mental health specialist to come in to help de-escalate their crisis or their manic behavior. Now, this is going to cost more money. This is also going to affect the safety of the officers and the community. And what if that person has not been addressed by local law enforcement? What are they capable of doing in their kind of unpredictable state, untreated state? And this, you know, we're missing the fact that they have family members that have maybe discarded them because they're completely unstable, unwilling to accept family love and support. So where are they going to go? They're going to be on the streets, right? They got to eat. And, you know, we have not be naive about this. Some of them will rob, they will rape. You know, we got the combination of young people who are sexually exploited, abandoned out in the streets. So we have a whole reality of horror happening behind closed doors. And these are crimes that are really unsolvable if you have a homeless population that are criminally minded, morally unstable. They're going to do whatever, whenever they want to do it. So how do you manage this? And if Trump is saying, yo, we got to come through and create some systemic changes, and it's not going to happen with philosophies, and all these behind the door lobbying and waiting on laws to pass, and people going through this panel of argumentative folks that just are professional arguers that are not ready to handle business straight up and down. Like right now, this country is in crisis on many levels. But again, when it goes back to the question the brother asked, yes, when people are unwilling to get stability, emotional, mental, psychological help, well, who's going to put steps in place to get it addressed?
Hey, Raj, let me ask you another question. So we started off this video or session with a bunch of videos that showed sort of fear mongering. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my question for you. Does this set the pace for regular? Somebody has a lot of feedback. I don't know who it is. Does this set the pace for regular people to get caught up in the system? Let's say a guy gets drunk, fall out on the street, or somebody just call in their neighbor, or is it more detailed than that?
That's a great question. I would imagine that when these laws are kind of negotiated, they have to write script for liability. That means if, just say, for instance, law enforcement is out there just arresting any and everybody. What this could mean for them is that this approach is going to easily be dismantled and destroyed because of potential liability. That's why I said earlier that when you approach people out on the street, get their name, you run their name and their date of birth, and you could see if they have a history of mental health issues, if they have assaultive behavior with law enforcement, assaultive behavior in the community, and then you address it from there. So I'm almost certain it's going to be a filtering process when it comes to approaching people who are homeless. So in LA, kind of the images we're seeing were all these encampments. There's a spot downtown LA called Skid Row, and you have several miles of that on the streets where people are homeless, and a lot of them are severely addicted to drugs. I mean, I'm talking about hard drugs. Then you have people who are scammers. They have severe violent criminal history. But in between this subpopulation are people who don't have criminal records, but they have addiction. They're homeless too. But there are victims within that sub community. So there's so much positive stuff that can happen. But I don't see people running into communities and just getting everybody who appears to be homeless. It's a safety factor that has to take place. And it is also a liability factor, because if people are being picked up off the streets and they just out of their luck and don't have a place to stay, an intelligent person would realize that homelessness is just not affecting people who are making poor decisions and are kind of addicted to bypassing their own social emotional issues through drugs and alcohol. It's people who don't have support. They don't have the educational means, the work history means to be able to have a place to stay. So a competent officer would say, "Hey, how are you doing? Everything okay? How can I help you?"
So Raj, I really need you to lock in with me. I want to bring you on and do an actual show because I have something in store. So you're the missing ingredient. So please, after this, let's lock in. I don't know how you came on. You probably came through someone else's channel, maybe DJ Genesis.
With me. Sure did. Yes.
Okay, so you can tie me in with him, please. Okay, that's great. So can we do this? And Raj, what are you looking like on time? Am I saying your name right?
That's a good question. Rock, R-A-Q.
Rock. Okay. All right. So
yeah,
can I play a video for you real quick?
Sorry.
I just wanted to play this original video we started off with to see your thoughts on it.
Okay.
It's less than 2 minutes, right? DJ, go back and play that original video by the attorney. I just want to get your opinion. Thank you.
Trump just signed a truly terrifying executive order to bring back forced institutionalization. Yep, you heard that right. It's truly terrifying and no one is talking about it. I'm Eliza Orland's career public defender for 15 years in Manhattan, and we have to talk about the executive order that they're calling Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets. This order specifically targets unhoused people, people with mental illnesses, and people who use drugs. It calls the hundreds of thousands of people experiencing homelessness on a single night endemic vagrancy and frames them as threats to public safety. Trump is using fear to justify locking them away under what he calls civil commitment, aka forced confinement. Here's what the order actually does. First, it directs the Attorney General to overturn federal and state court decisions that protect people from involuntary confinement, essentially gutting due process rights that took decades to secure. Second, it ends housing first policies that have actually worked to reduce homelessness. Instead, it forces people to accept treatment whether they want it or not as a condition of receiving federal housing aid. Third, it prioritizes federal grants for states that enforce bans on urban camping, loitering, and squatting, aka criminalizing the simple act of existing without a shelter. Fourth, it expands civil commitment to anyone deemed a danger to themselves or others, or who cannot care for themselves. Language so vague, it could quite literally apply to anyone experiencing a crisis. This is not about safety or compassion. The order literally says the goal is to protect public safety by removing people from public view. This is about control, criminalization, and disappearing poverty, not solving it. This is mass incarceration 2.0, only now it's dressed up in fake compassion and medical language. We've seen this before. In the era of massive state hospitals, warehousing, and forced sterilization, and we know how this ends. As a career public defender, I've seen what happens when governments use the courts to cage, confine, and criminalize instead of care. If you're as horrified as I am, share this video and follow me. If you're interested, I can break down every section of this executive order piece by piece because this isn't just cruel, this is calculated, and we need to understand exactly what we're fighting against. Thanks for being here, and please make sure you're following for more.
Okay, Rock, so what do you think about this?
Yeah, she was talking fast. A car dealer. And I'm not saying anything bad about her, but civil commitment and due process. Okay, so let me just give you an example. Whenever I have a client that doesn't show up for their appointments with me, I tell them up front, please read your conditions of release. These are the things, your standard conditions. There are some special conditions. You must follow them. You made an agreement with the state in exchange for your physical freedom to be in the community and behave and, move like an adult does, right? Last week, I had to put in a request for 3 warrants for absconder, which means they haven't reported, they're refusing to come in, yada, yada, yada. Due process means that when I write a report, I got to show due diligence that I've tried to contact them. I went out to the address last known. I've even given them resources for programs to help them, housing resources, substance abuse resources, mental health resources. If they have failed to follow through on these things, I tell them all the time, I can't walk you to the placement. I can give you the resource free of charge to you. That's an example of due process. I must show when I go to court for a revocation, which I hate doing. I hate it. I must show the judge that I've made due diligence to help this client, to be able to keep them under the radar, to encourage them to be compliant with their orders. If I have successfully shown that, then my revocation request is going to be approved, a warrant will be issued, and they will be under arrest. Now, due process continues from there. That person has a right to right for a hearing. They have a right to face their accuser, which in a position as a case manager or parole agent, they get to face me. And I get to say, yo, you remember when I did this? You remember when I did that? And what was your response? Well, they had no forwarding response because they violated their agreement with the court. Now, say, for instance, you go back to people who are homeless. You got to think about it like this. There may be a 10 or 15% population of them who are on probation or parole, who may be absconded, may have open warrants, or maybe a crime has been committed, and probable cause plays a role in that as well. If I go into an camp where there's people homeless or skid row, I can kind of scan with my eyes if there's substance containers, is there needles, are there baggies there? There's my probable cause to detain, not arrest. When I detain you, I'm going to investigate further. I need your name, your date of birth. If you refuse to cooperate, I'm going to put you in the vehicle. I'm going to transport you downtown. I'm still going to be nice to you because I want to find out what your situation is. I'm a professional officer. I'm not a, out of my mind, not caring about policy procedure officer. So due process is for that person throughout. So when this lady is talking about your due process is going to be affected and this, that, and the third, no. If you want to address an issue, you got to address it where it is out of control first. So dealing with folks who have criminal records, if their criminal record is dealing with violent felonies, things that can suggest that they might be a danger to themselves or others, then I need to talk to that person in a setting where they're willing to talk to me mutually. That's step number one. But I think with this person that was this she may be an ACLU attorney or whatnot, but I think that a lot of them are still working under the philosophy of everybody of color is a victim. They can do no wrong. And that old scenario is played out, is no good. Like I said before, I'm not only somebody that works in the community, I'm from that same community. I don't work in a faraway office where I work with people who have had privileges, even though I have worked in those neighborhoods and the substance issues are equally the same. It just, for me, under the psychosocial model of ACEs, early childhood experiences, people have trauma across the board. It just means that there are more mental health programs offered in more affluent communities. And when I say there are more available in affluent communities, the community themselves are holding these community service providers accountable. You're just not going to have my baby up in your place, giving them a diagnosis, put them on medication. That's it. No, I want some intense therapy. I'm going to be willing to participate in therapy because maybe I, as a parent, have done something wrong. I need to apologize to my baby in their face to create the healing process. But I can go on and on about that. But I'm like this. I want to sit back and watch how this works. But in terms of your human rights, I think human beings are responsible enough to read a document, to read a book, to understand simple politics, to know that your rights cannot be violated unless you allow them to.
Is it just me, or are some of these individuals trying to make it seem like, oh, being homeless is a beautiful thing? Like, oh, they're really taking away people from the woods and off the street. Like, what's going on?
Mel, because you got the name Trump on the table. Listen, had this been Obama, had this been Bill Clinton, whatever, had this been anyone around there, on the Democrat side where we have to continuously be emotional and we can't fight for what our country is supposed to be giving us, they would have been going along with this. But when you put Trump on the table, when you put change on the table, when you put take away because they're not supposed to be doing it, then certain people want to fight back because they get too emotional. This is an emotional thing, if you ask me. That's why we were never able to get rid of illegal immigrants, because we were in an emotional state. Then you get a president that put the hammer on you and you already know how he is. Then they can't take it. But everybody want to continue to complain about the rent, complain about grocery, eggs being $18 for one egg. You want to complain, but now we got our feet to where we're working and moving, and they don't want to see us go forward. I don't understand it. Take Republican off the table, Democrat off the table, nonpartisan off the table, Trump off the table, and put reality on the table. We're suffering. We can't do this the light, easy way right now. We got to be ready to fight. Y'all had enough time to sleep. We had too many presidents where you were sleeping. I slept through the whole Biden administration. And I'm woke now, and we getting some changes. And I'm not stopping.
Yes.
Period.
Can I say something?
Should be illegal. Homelessness should be illegal because you have a lot of people who are homeless because they don't have resources. And I'm not saying that to paint a picture of being a victim, but let me ask y'all this, and you know, you can respond if you want to. If you have budget issues, financial priority issues, there may be some emotional instability going on. If you can't learn how to manage your bread, whatever how much you have, work together as a team. But as a single parent, I had to budget every dollar to raise my son. And he still didn't get everything that he wanted. But, you know, to spend money on this, I didn't go out to party. I didn't go spend money on, you know, drinking and popping bottles. My son had to come first. I had to make sure I paid the rent on time. I had to avoid late fees. I'm just talking practical stuff. I had to buy enough meat, poultry, bread, milk, last us from month to month so that I wouldn't waste money. And I didn't want to see my son without. But if the opposite is occurring, and a basic treatment would be, hey, as a case manager, where you at with your money? Where you at with food? Yada, yada, yada. If someone's getting TANF for food stamps, we got to start looking at their spending habits, you know? And they act, like I said earlier, are you looking for a job? Instead of continuing asking a person, are you looking for a job? Hey, you got X amount of time to become employed. Here are some resources for you. We're going to do some mock interviews. We're going to do this, that, and the third, but you need to be employed by this time. Putting standards and putting limits, time limits on people's benefits is going to help them become responsible, because the flip side is this. The society should be based on promoting autonomy, not promoting codependency. And we're a little bit too late to talk about why it didn't happen, because a lot of young women were given free, and they, you know, having children and then getting years and years of public housing, and no one is held accountable. Same thing with the fathers. You know, the money has been so mismanaged over the past 30, 40 years. This was coming. And even though it looks like it's addressing homelessness, these people that are in these videos, these shorts, they only see one side. It's politics game. It's an emotional politics game rather than looking at it. Because if I would have did TikTok, I'd have to start with the obvious. What have we not done in the past 10, 20, 30, 40 years? This is the majority of why this stuff is happening. And now that it's happening, everybody wants to hide behind the term law. Well, let me, break a couple of people's hearts here. There's no such thing as law. That's just a word. You make that word real. If you can describe what law means to you, I can describe what law means to me. It's a level of social control that might be good sometime and it might be bad sometime, but it is all based on being practical. Can we provide for the nation? Can we provide an equal level of support to make sure that nobody ever hears or experiences the term homelessness? Okay, that was not done. And if it was done, it was done wrong. And, I think that this problem-solving strategy that, Trump has or his team has is to start from the bottom. Let's deal with the emergency of homelessness, and then we're going to deal with the semi-extreme in terms of those who are responsible for the housing and those who are not being responsible for housing. And then it's going to even move into home own. I think it should move into also home ownership. Who's not getting all this balance out at some point.
So it is, Rob. It's going to get into all of that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mel. It's going to get into all of that. I mean, what he had to do first, if you notice the first time Trump was in office, what did he target? The first time he targeted, y'all need to wake up and know who I am. You're fired. That's the first thing he did. And then he started targeting the countries. us down here wouldn't have known how to handle what's going around with the countries and the tariffs and how they mistreating us by overcharging us. That's what he did the first term. He already got them scared to come at us the wrong way. So now what he's doing, he's targeting what was in the way, which is the illegal immigrants and things of that nature. Then he's targeting the homelessness. Once we can clear the air, I can see his next target. We need to go after even those on Social Security that's getting it and they know they're still working. We have mismanagement of the money all around this entire globe. And I also wanted to say one thing. When we talk about homeless, we need to also understand that a lot of the homelessness these days is coming from even the younger generations, especially out of Atlanta, Georgia, out of parts of Florida. These young kids have gotten on, what's this drug that they've gotten on? It's this drug that all of them, they are based out. A lot of
fentanyl.
What? No, not fentanyl. It's another one. They started getting it. No, it's a drug that they started making in jail. And then a lot of the young ones that came from jail, that's the new generational drug, and it's huge.
Paint.
K2.
It's K2, but they call it paint up in New York City.
It's horrible.
It's
and they get
that P. Diddy was on. Tusi. It's a combination of ketamine, cocaine, and like
they spray it on it. Like that's what I mean, like spray.
I'll tell you the name of it, but it's horrible.
K2. So here's a question I have for you, Rock. You have a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's go back to the bill. Pull the bill up again. We're going to get to the bottom. Now, we didn't get to the part where it talked about camping and all that, so I'm intrigued by that. So we need to get to that point. But looking at this bill, is it the idea to clear the streets at night of homeless people in general, or is this more of a surgical thing?
It's another good question. I'm just going to talk from experience as I look at this document. Homelessness in California is ridiculous, especially LA County, where I spent 30, 40 years. It is way too much homelessness. And I think part of it is addressing the people that live in those areas. You know, they don't want to come out and see what they're seeing. So when you have somebody who's living in these group encampments, you know, think about it like this. There's no running water or toilets for them to use. So they got to go somewhere. There is no beautiful trash barrels or cans sitting there waiting for them to dump their discard. So it could be very, very uncomfortable, unclean, and trashy in those areas. So being able to deal with homelessness in general, I think you're right. Idealistically, it may be, hey, with everybody that's approached, it should be an approach that's based on case management. You know, if a law enforcement officer approaches someone, hey man, what you got going on? What's your situation? The law enforcement officer should have resources ready to give that person. This doesn't mean they're going to be arrested right away. Unfortunately, there are some people who have open warrants. They're choosing to be homeless, or they have such a horrible background. This is a small population I'm talking about, where they cannot qualify for housing. So I think that in the interim, if they're going to sweep everybody off the streets that are homeless, they need to have action plan, a suitable action plan to be able to help them right then and there. And it's not going to happen overnight. But I think you may have a point there that they want this eradicated entirely. But I don't think they have a grand amount of funds to be able to do it in one day. So they have to have a very sensible, strategic, and minimally liability when they do it. So they can't mess around and pulling people off the streets just like that, because they can face charges themselves. Liability suits can pop up all over the place. I think that this movement, it should be a strategic one. I don't want to use the word humane because, you know, we're human. No one needs to, you know, rephrase that. It should be a very, very common sense strategy. But yeah, the focus should be on eradicating homelessness altogether, but from a intellectual and strategic route, they should focus on the most extreme first. And I think when you have people who are homeless because they literally do not have support, there should be a resource provided for them right then and there. And there should be a timeline for them to follow through on the resource. If I pass by and I give somebody a citation for loitering, which is happening already, I shouldn't just give them a citation. I need to give them some resources, and I have to document that in my report. Anytime you interact with a citizen, whether if I'm driving in a patrol car and I pull up your plate information, I got to write a documentation for that every night for every tag I pull on my computer. So it's the same thing when I deal with somebody on the streets. I got to create a document, an incident report every time I do. And an incident report shouldn't just say, I saw this person, they look homeless, they smelled homeless, and I addressed them. No. You have to have some type of resources you gave them. Officers, I imagine, will be riding around with resources in their patrol cars. I mean, this is going to be part of the money that's going to be used, to enforce this new situation. They have to be equipped to be able to move proactively. You know, that reactive stuff just won't work. But
I have a question. So I want to show this video right quick about because a lot of the fear is that this is going to turn into some kind of way that they're going to be able to like make people work for labor.
The United States government is using the homeless as free and cheap labor to replace those who were deported by Donald Trump. There is a massive labor shortage in the United States following Trump's deportations. This could have serious economic impact on the United States, but Donald Trump has come up with a solution. Just yesterday, he signed an executive order essentially telling cities and states to criminalize the homeless. This would allow those states to lock up the homeless and use them as free and cheap labor. Because in the United States, slavery is still allowed if it's a punishment for a crime. And doing this would allow the United States to gain back that workforce that they lost at the same cost or better than paying those who are undocumented. Because the corporations do not want to pay Americans a fair, livable wage for the work that undocumented immigrants have done in this country for so long. So the United States will do what it's always done and find a group of people that it can exploit for labor.
As Star would say, shut his mic off, please.
Please, that's what I be saying.
Shut his mic off. We got to stop this now. This is out of control.
That's what I'm telling you.
I just want to at least like show that. Listen, I mean, I get it.
No.
No. But I'm saying that this is like.
Could I say something?
Go ahead.
This is RFK Jr. is the mastermind of the write-up. Are you familiar with RFK Jr.?
Yeah, who?
Robert Kennedy Jr.
Oh.
He's the mastermind behind this initiative. Are you familiar with him?
You mean the actual this whole executive?
Yes.
Or the people that are like speaking against it.
He's the mastermind of this initiative that people are fear-mongering of. But he's spoken about this many times before. And remember, he was running as a Democratic presidential candidate. It's right there on the initiative of who's the U.S. Secretary of Health. But if you go backwards, he was speaking of this during his presidential campaign, especially in San Francisco. He would wanted to start that off there. I believe these clips, this is fear mongering from opposition, paid opposition.
Well, it's interesting you say RFK Kennedy Jr. So let me show you this real quick. So watch this.
Thank you.
It's gonna blow your mind. Watch this. So if you get into it even further, hold on, let me find it right here. Boom. Executive order by John F. Kennedy, the 35th president. So what they're saying is that this whole emergency preparedness function is about to the Secretary of Labor. So they're trying to say that this whole thing goes hand in hand by utilizing.
We're not seeing anything. If you're showing something, we're not seeing it.
Correct.
No, it's right there at the bottom.
You have to take the name down. Take the name down, the comment down.
Oh, you can't see it. Oh, my bad. Hold on. Let me hold on.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So
these are the same people.
So this is John F. Kennedy. And this is a 1963 executive order assigning emergency preparedness function to the Secretary of Labor. So what they're trying to say is that this is a continuation of this law, where it goes into if you're in war, how would you implement people, civilian manpower, mobilization, all this other stuff. So this is what what people are thinking, that this is like a continuation of, as you can see. You see what I'm saying? So I think so they're combining this, saying, okay, well, this is really a continuation of this law that started in 1963. And then when you say that Kennedy Jr. is the one that
Robert Kennedy Jr.
Kennedy Jr. And then you have like this law right here where you get into mobilization and trying to mobilize the people into like in a wartime situation. And we are in kind of a wartime situation. That's why people are like kind of saying that this is like all connected.
This is I know the TikTokers, they're speaking in tongue of like how Project 2025. This is what this is all about. Like people are fearful of it still.
Exactly. They don't want to see a change. Like, I don't understand why they're so scared to see a change. And even when we go back to that number 3,
to get this really going, they're going to have to tap into the insurance, health insurance, to make this even go any further. And they're looking into the Affordable Care Act, ending it this year or something like that. There's people that I've talked to close that said, they got the letter that it's going to be ending in December, something, but it's still not finalized.
Yeah,
they have a lot of work to do. A lot of work ahead of them.
What did you say was ending?
The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare.
Insurance? Oh, I got to look that up. I didn't see that.
Right. There's plenty of people who have gotten letters. I haven't, but people that I care about. There's people, they have already gotten letters that it's going to end in 2025 in December. But what is it going to roll over into? What's going to be the new plan? It hasn't been spoken on yet.
They kind of are speaking on that. Part of it.
But go ahead, Mr. Redd. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry about that.
What's the name of it, though? The new plan.
Let me just share this. It's all over the place. But here's what I think is about to happen. Everybody that has applied for and utilized Medicaid, Medicare, when you get qualified, you get an ID number attached to that. That ID number is going to identify you as a citizen, a non-citizen, your demographics. And so anybody who, first and foremost, is not a legal citizen are going to be first to be taken off. Secondly, people who are not disabled, have a legitimate diagnosis or medical issue that is not needing chronic support and care, that are people who are able-bodied to work, they don't have any major health issues, they're going to be taken off or given a timeline of when they're going to be taken off. All this stuff is happening in stages. What I'm thinking too is that it's happening in very critical and informed stages, because if you don't need it, you don't need it. If you're able to go to a job and work and get benefits and, pay into your benefits, that's what you're going to do. If you're receiving benefits and you're not legally here, the priority goes to people who are citizens of the United States for medical care and other benefits. I know that might sound a little bit of cutthroat, but if you're trying to balance your books, you need to put everything in perspective so that wasting is no longer a culture. And if America is trying to balance its budget, you got to look at all the paperwork, all the fine writing, things that have not been done, anything that's careless that's been done, and prioritize where those resources need to go. But again, everybody who has Medicare, Medicaid, your ID, your citizenship, all these numbers into your birthday, everything is attached to that benefit. And that is as a form of identification. So everybody is looking in the books more carefully now to figure out what needs to be paid and what does not need to be for.
Good. And I see here that they did say that Obamacare is going to be ending, and they say the new plan that's going to be available in 2026 is American Rescue Plan, ARP. That's the new plan is showing.
Yeah, thank you for speaking the name on that, Queen.
Yeah.
ARP.
Hey guys, I just want to take a second and tell everybody, please hit the like button, share it, subscribe, support the channels that are here. There's quite a few here. We appreciate everybody that's here tonight as we talk about a subject that's affecting all of us, and a lot of comments are really deep. Fates, who has experienced homelessness, has been given their testimony as well. So thank you to everybody, and thanks for all the likes and everything you guys do. Please support DJ Genesis, her channel. You can support her Cash App. She's constantly every day beating the pavement, trying to help people by bringing solid information. I'm glad that anytime that I can come over and support her channel, but for people that actually see her work, it's really beautiful. So stay helping her and giving when you can. I know a lot of people don't like to hear this because of the stigma with churches or what have you, but I just want to say support your sister. I definitely do. Also, Queen is in the building. She articulates like no other, and I always appreciate being on the panel with her. And I don't know how in the world we got Rock on the panel where he's right in the thick of it, and we have him on tonight. So folks, if that doesn't garner a like or something, shout out to him for being here. It's truly amazing. And then if I'm not mistaken, we have Reverend Green in the building. So we have somebody that can pray for you too. We got this whole thing covered. So thank you guys, everybody. I just wanted to add that. Thank you for the likes. So we can get back to whoever was talking.
Definitely appreciate you on that, Mel. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you on that. And I love sitting down with you. Do we have anything for tomorrow? Because I'm ready.
Yeah, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Tomorrow at 3, we have the regular show with Calvin Johnson, the criminal attorney. So we'll have a nice show tomorrow. We're going to get into a little bit about Diddy, but a lot about Donald Trump still. Tonight we're not really addressing the issues with Epstein. So that's a factor that doesn't seem to want to go away. So we're going to address that. And we have a little bit coming up with Carmelo Anthony as well. So there's a lot of hot topics that we covered tomorrow that are going to really hit home. So you guys can tune in tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern time, 3 to 4, Central time from 2 until 5. So we look forward to each and every one of you. But tonight we're just on the subject about homelessness, and it's amazing to me that we have some people in the audience who have been homeless, and if you like to come up and tell us about your story, feel free to come up. We would love to hear from you. This show tonight, we're just dragging on, folks. Who knows what time is going to end? But it's nice to have. It's nice to have you guys. Listen, I'm. In class, I was the guy that couldn't stop laughing. So when you guys laugh, you promote me to continue jokes and laugh. So anyway, now you got me all geeky, as they say down south. So anyway, yeah.
I'm a Geechee. Watch it, Mel. Watch it, Mel. I'm a Geechee now. I'm watching, Mel.
Okay, me too.
I'm a Geechee.
I'm one too. So
Oh, I'm Charleston. I'm from Charleston.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, we had someone here. I think they left, but I did want to say that. Listen, guys, I was homeless. That's the reason why I felt so in touch with this subject, because I've been homeless before, and that's part of the reason why I was really attracted to this conversation, because I'm like thinking to myself, dang, if they would have had this in place, could they have like put me into a camp or something like that? And and I'm better off. I'm better now, but I mean, I spent a really large portion of my life homeless. Moving in Washington D.C. When I got out the military, and then going to Detroit, and it took me a while, because when I got out the military, it took me a while to like really, because you join the military at 18, and then, if your family doesn't accept you back into their household, then you have to like fend for yourself. And so I kind of like had to like figure things out, what I'm saying? Like how to like pay rent and how to do this. I didn't have no one telling me how to do it. I had to like learn on my own. So I was very homeless, from in my 20s, my whole entire 20s. I was like completely homeless. So that's the reason why it's like I wasn't crazy. I wasn't a drug addict. I just was, getting out the military. They kick you out, and it's like, okay, you got to fend for yourself. So I was kind of like struggling. How do I make it out here in this world? So I would hate for a person like me. I'm not like a vagrant person. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not crazy, but I just, hey, just I'm young, trying to figure out what to do, because there's no one telling me, okay, this is how you navigate life. So a lot of times we have like young people that just get kicked out, street kids kind of, what I'm saying? You're like 18, 19, 20, your frontal lobe haven't been fully whatever, and you're just out there just trying to figure it out. And you're really homeless, what I'm saying? And you're staying here and just really crazy stuff. But I always made sure I had a job. But could you imagine if people would have came and said, no, you know what, you're homeless and whatever, and so we're gonna put you into a situation. Now, I never like asked for like government help my entire time being homeless. It wasn't actually until I started having kids I was like realized I can get help. You know what I'm saying? But I like spent my whole 20s just thugging it out. So I don't know exactly what this law is focusing on or whatever. Like if you have to like apply for something and then they'll come after you, I don't know. So to me, I'm just thinking about how many like young kids that maybe might be even like when she did talk about like gay and transgender, if their family does not agree with their lifestyle, they end up homeless a lot on the streets. Women that are like into sex, that get sex trafficked, they're homeless. A lot of times you have like a lot of like homeless people that like kind of get out here on the streets. Are they mentally ill, or are they like victims of a circumstance, or what is it? So how do you determine who needs to go to this facility or not? That's the part where I'm like, okay, if you pick those persons up and you talk to them, they might seem like they're traumatized. Of course they are. If you would have picked me up in my 20s, you'd probably would think I was traumatized and probably would have kept me in the actual location, whatever it was.
So let me ask you a question.
In the mental institution, if they would have picked my crazy ass up back then when I was 20, let's be real.
So Genesis, real quick, a question for you. So what did your homelessness look like? Were you actually like on the streets, or you just living with family members?
Well, no, I was on the street. So at first I was able to maintain an apartment, do pretty good. But then I don't know, it was like I had people living with me, didn't pay the rent, things got messed up, and I ended up like on the street. What happened is that I lost my paycheck from Kinko's. This is exactly what happened. I had a paycheck from Kinko's, lost it was a paper check, lost the check, couldn't find it, had to wait to the next paycheck to like get it like put on to the next paycheck. And so the landlord wasn't really gonna honor that. And so I end up homeless. That's exactly what happened. So I was homeless, living. I was really like literally like didn't know where I was gonna go. Someone told me that all the people were living above a flower shop on U Street because I was a DJ at the time, and so it was across the street from where I DJ'd at. And so it was a guy that was up there. His name was Blind. He was actually going blind. At some point, he was going to go blind, and he allowed me to kind of stay in the hallway. And it was all kind of roaches and stuff crawling on me when I was sleeping. And it was just really jacked up. And then crackheads, they would be fighting and slitting their wrist, and it was just crazy. It was the craziest situation. And so I stayed in that hallway until I man. And then when I got my check, I was able to like ask people, can I like pay you to stay with you for a week or stay here or stay there? But yeah, I literally was like staying on top of a flower shop because the flower shop would allow certain people to like stay in rooms above it. And yeah, in Washington, D.C. Yeah.
So you know what I wanted to ask you? I want to ask you, DJ, with an experience like that, do you think, and I know you already said that's probably why you're on the emotional side of it, but do you think kind of trying to clear up homelessness to move people into a place to stay, does that kind of like make you feel as if it's not going to be changed but a betterment? Do you think it's going to be something going on that's not going to be for the betterment of the homeless and for the people that are not homeless but could be homeless because rent is so high?
I mean,
I'm trying to.
I think the issue is that people just think homelessness means you're just mentally ill, out of your mind. Don't know.
But I don't think so, though. I don't think people feel like that. I don't think so.
Well, based on this bill that I'm reading, is that's what it kind of has come across. Well, they're on meth, they're on this, they're like on drugs, and they're just out of their mind. Go ahead.
Because the bill that you're reading is geared toward those particular situations. Is geared towards that. It's geared towards the homeless that falls in those particular categories, not geared toward the ones that are honestly homeless because they can't afford it. So I want to know why you were out there being homeless was at the time, because I feel it was a while ago, was at that time, did you see the homeless more so homeless because they didn't have the money, or more so homeless because of the drugs and the mental? Like, which stage were you in?
Listen, the homeless people I saw were veterans, people that it wasn't necessarily they couldn't afford it. It was more like because DC was really high at the time, and to like stay there was kind of like a high amount to like get a good place. And then if you think about it, like even in Texas, you have to have a certain thing to get an apartment. If you don't have that, then you can't get an apartment. So it's easy to be homeless in that situation because, hey, you have to have like an A1 credit score. You have to have this, that, the other to get an apartment. So it's either you live in a hotel and you pay extra to live in that hotel, or you kind of like thug it out. So in DC is similar. DC has a very high price of living. It's very high to live there. So it's easy to be homeless in DC. It's not that hard to end up being homeless, because if you don't if you're not working a big enough job to be able to pay that rent, or if you have like a eviction on your thing, you can't get an apartment. So you end up homeless. And so it's not like, so how do you differentiate a person that just couldn't, the credit score wasn't good enough or whatever, versus a person that's actually there because they are mentally ill? That's the part.
because a lot of the homelessness that I see, and I've traveled a lot of places, especially in the United States, because, you know, as I always told you, I travel training those doctors. And I've been to just about every state here, maybe except maybe 3 of them. And the homelessness that I see, the ones that I came in contact with, it's not homeless because they didn't have money to afford it. The predominantly amount of homeless that I see is the mental illness and the ones that are on drugs the worst. And those are the ones that you would really see out there more often than you would the ones that don't have the money, because those ones that don't have the money and they want to get back inside of a building to get in those right living conditions, they put forth the effort to get out of that situation. But the ones that you see with the repetitive behavior, those are the ones that's basically saying, I don't want to be anywhere but where I'm at. You can always tell the difference with the ones that want something better but can't get there because they actually need the help, versus the ones that have mental problems and are on drugs, and either the family pushed them away, they stayed away, or they don't know how to get back there.
Right.
So I think there's a difference.
Hey, so let me just give it like this: is that when I got kicked out of the military, my family pushed me away. They when I said, "Hey, can I come back to stay?" Because I got kicked out the military. I got a general discharge because of failure to adapt. I failed the test or whatever, like the written test to like stay in. My family was like, "Well, no, you can't come back here." You know what I'm saying? I had nowhere to go, so I end up on the
Yeah, but
street.
you didn't.
See,
But you didn't fall under that category, though. You didn't fall under the 2 categories that this bill is gearing towards. You fell under that other level of homelessness because you couldn't afford somewhere to live. That's a different level.
I don't think that you're understanding is that that one category and another category is not that far apart. Let me just put it like this. If I didn't have a guy that said, "Hey, you know, you could stay with me," you know what I'm saying? And of course that gets dangerous too, right? Some random guy says you can stay with me, and of course it got really scary. And I had to like find other places to go. Now, like my own ability to navigate that situation allowed me not to be 100% on the street, right? But people do not understand like how dangerous it is when you don't have a place to go and how vulnerable you could be. And so when you just only minimize a person into a drug addict, into a mental illness person, that is not what a lot of the situations. It just might be that you don't have nowhere to go, and and maybe your options have ran out to or people to go to, because your family's acting like a bunch of whatever, and they're like whatever, and because they got their own family to deal with, they don't want to deal with you, and so you're just out here on your own. And I was making like, even homeless, I was making $24 an hour, $12 an hour. So I'm homeless, still going to work, still doing what I do, but still don't have no.
So you weren't in the same category, DJ. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand.
What I'm trying to get you to understand is that that's the thing. That's exactly what I'm trying to get you to understand. Is that
Hey, DJ, guess what? Guess what, DJ? You're not. I was homeless too. Remember? So I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you in a position where I haven't been there before. Is my point to you? Because I just seen someone say you can't say something if you weren't in those shoes, and I was in those shoes. So I do know how it feels to be homeless and not have no family to go to. I do know. And I'm saying to me, so you're not the only one. You may have been out there longer than me, but you're not the only one that was homeless. I've been there, and I know the different levels of homelessness. And there's a homelessness where you can't afford it. And to me, there's different levels of it.
All different levels. Do you understand? I've been on the level.
Of course I do.
I've been on the
Of course I
level
understand.
outside. I've been on the level of in my car. I've been on the level of, because what happens is that, like, you know, it's kind of traumatic to talk about when I talk about it, but I'm just saying is that I've been on all the different levels of homelessness. and I've also been alcoholic, and and homelessness does feed into, because you don't want to deal. Sometimes you'll drink not to deal with the fact that you're sitting there, and then other people, like, they're drinking, you're drinking, and so the other homeless people are all hanging out together, they all drinking together, so it's like a thing. It makes there's a community that forms. You get to hanging out with certain people, so it's a whole thing that goes on with that, so so to so to me, and those people probably like protected me at certain points. I remember like in certain instances, like where like that those are my people. All the homeless people we were all hanging out together, homeless. Okay, we're gonna be here right now, whatever. So like people, it's not a mindset, but it's a situation that happens to where you're all in one bucket together, and you guys are all like looking out for each other. And but it does not mean that that all these people are jacked up or whatever. Some people just like fell on. In DC, it was on U Street. All of us was artists. Most of us was like starving artists, doing poetry, and so we might be homeless, but we go to I'm DJing over here, but homeless as hell DJing, homeless
But
as
guess
hell.
what? I get what you're saying, and I think there's a different level to it, because even when I was out there and I was homeless, I know I didn't want to be homeless. I didn't want to be homeless. So what I did was by myself, and it's kind of weird to say, but I was a homeless person where nobody was able to look at me and know that I was sleeping in my car and actually taking a shower at a community park every morning. But guess what? Because I didn't, let me finish, because I didn't go that far into it. Why? Because I knew I shouldn't have been in that situation. So what I did was I worked my butt off while being homeless, while going to parks, taking a shower in the morning time, while not telling families that's not really my family that I'm on the street homeless because I can't get back to my dad. Guess what I did? I worked my butt off to find me somewhere to stay. That's why I say there's different levels, because I know I didn't want to be there. My dad didn't raise me like that. I was in Florida and couldn't get back. So I worked and worked and worked because I didn't want to stay in that situation. So there's the people that want to be in the situation, people that probably can't get out of the situation, people with mental issues, and then people with drug issues. I keep saying there's different levels. I wanted to get out, so I didn't stay in that position. I was there for a minute.
I had alcohol. I didn't have a drug issue. I had an alcohol issue. But let me just tell you.
No, I wasn't talking about you. I'm talking in general.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna be real with you. Listen. Okay, how long were you homeless?
For some months, because I worked my butt off, because I was by myself at that time. Beautiful one, homeless.
From 1999 up until 1990. I mean 2000 and what? When I had my daughter, 2007, 2006. Yes. 1997 to 2006, I was homeless.
Right.
And I've been to the program with the military where they try to put you, but they didn't want to put me in there because they said, you know what, there's a lot of like sex offenders there. They don't want to put you there. I've been through the programs. I've been through all the different like things they try to do to help you out. Thank God I had enough people that were like allowing me to stay with them throughout that whole time. But let me tell you something. At any point, if they would have like did a mental health evaluation on me, I would have been in a mental health ward. Trust me, because there's no way that they would have seen me as a normal, like mentally. If they would have like evaluated me, hell, they would have put me into a pro. Because there's like, what, like, how come you can't? But I had a job the whole time. I always maintained a job. I always was able to like make income and everything. But for some reason, like I just couldn't figure out how to make life happen. I don't know. And there might have been some trauma in my past, or maybe just being thrown out the military at 18 years old, not knowing how to live life and having to wing it, But I'm gonna tell you is that these stories, I'm not the only person. I probably have gone years of being homeless, and then that's depressing alone within itself. So I mean, I've lived in my car. Some stupid ass guy gave me a cat. The cat pissed in my car. Stupid. Don't ever give a person a cat when they're homeless in their car. That shit is crazy because like the cat will piss me. Anyways, but I have been through the crux. Okay, so what I'm saying is that that's the reason why I'm like you can't do a mental evaluation on a person when they're in a situation like this and then make a decision on their mental health, because homelessness itself breeds depression. So you're going to be depressed. Of course you're going to be depressed. You're homeless. You don't know where your next meal, you don't know what's going on. You're hanging on other depressed people. Of course so how can you quantify how this person is feeling in their life when they don't even have a roof over their head? We're trying to figure out A to B, B to C, whatever. And especially if they're young like this and you don't even know.
Because you got to stop making excuses for them and let them figure that out. Like when you sit there and you continue to make excuses, they can't this, they can't that. You don't know what they can do. Sometimes you got to push a person out there and make them either want to do it or they're not going to do it. Then you got to make the decisions for them. Because we can continue to be emotional about it though. This is emotional.
Put them into a mental hospital. That's a decision to make.
If they're mental, where else are they going to go, DJ? They can't go to my house.
Anybody that you contact that is homeless is probably going to not pass a mental health evaluation.
But you can't determine that until we put them in that position. You're making excuses again. You're putting the carriage before the horse, though. Listen. If you have this many excuses for a homeless person, what is your solution to homelessness that's overrated in the United States right now?
You know what my solution is that they are human beings and they are living life the way that they want to live it, and there should nobody
That's a typical answer.
And tell them how to live their life. If they want to get out of it, they will find a way. I found a way. Why should someone come and scoop them up and put them in?
But were you doing anything illegal when you were looking for your way? If these people are doing something illegal, or if it's leading to hurt them or someone else in the public, how can you coddle that behavior? You either got to put them where they need to be at. You're coddling.
No, that's what the police. If you're doing something illegal, the police will step in and take care of that. That's
what this is about, though.
No, it's not. The police has every right to come in and step in that case. What's happening is
give us an example since this bill has been written. If you can't give me an example since this bill has been written, you need to step back and let the bill work itself out. Because I'm not going to sit around here and go through this that I've been going through in the United States all these years. We're not doing it.
It's 2 days old.
We're not doing it, DJ.
The bill was enacted on 2 days ago. You can't tell me that.
Correct. So why don't we let the bill work itself out? You don't have an example of a homeless person being put in jail because they're homeless and they want to be in the streets. If we don't have that example, what are we doing here? We're going in circles. We're snowballing this. I mean, what's your solution other than that?
So my thing is that you're saying, okay, well, just let it be. Same way we let other things be, and it came into like all this other crazy stuff.
We've been letting homeless go on for how many years now, DJ?
Like sending people off to like Ecuador and sending them off to this and let it be, let everything be. My thing is everybody want to let the Trump administration be while they're doing all kind of crazy ass stuff and just let it be. But we don't want
so what happened
the ramifications of this. Like
so where was everybody?
Okay, what
where was everybody at before
homelessness? What about so you mean to tell me, so if you're like 16-year-old runs from home and is homeless on the street, you want them to be put into a mental ward where you can't even control, they have to be stuck there? This is the type of law that this is. It's not even like ironing out age groups. Like, okay, so what if your 13-year-old runs away from home and they capture her and put her into a mental ward? We are so just caught up on Trump and if they.
So we're talking about what ifs. We're talking about what ifs. That's what I'm talking about. Why are we talking about what ifs?
What the hell are you? The whole bill is a what if. The whole bill is what if. The whole bill is not ironing out no real ironclad thing. It's a vague bill that says y'all better do something about this to the state. Okay, listen, Y'all need to either y'all don't do it, we're gonna cut y'all federal funding, and then now leave it up to the state to make up something to cover their homeless problem. But the whole bill is not as vague as hell, and
Correct.
and there's nothing in there for youth, 13-year-olds. What happens to the money if I'm on Social Security and y'all put me into a facility? What happens to my money? What happens then? The bill don't cover that. How do you even cover anything that if I'm a veteran and I'm making $4,000 a month, I just happen to be homeless, or you just happen to capture me in that moment and put me into a place? What happens to my money? Why is this bill not covering everything? To me, it's a bill. It was written really quickly, and they were not accounting for everything. It's a bill that is it's just willy-nilly. It's a willy-nilly ass bill that there's no actual details into it about how do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with sex trafficking? If you pick up a person that's homeless on the street and they're a sex trafficking victim, do you put them into a mental institution too? There's no real concrete nothing about this bill, bro. So to me, I don't like a bill that is just across the board random and has no details on how do you deal with all these different situations when it comes to homelessness, and just say
You long-winded.
I don't
You
care.
long-winded.
Okay, whatever.
You were a little long-winded. I just feel like we going in circles here. We really are going in circles. I don't understand it. It's like, if you don't like the bill, what happened before this bill went in place 2 days ago? What was the solution in your mind? Just continue homelessness?
Honey, the solution is that's not the solution. A random bill that has no true understanding of what to do in all these different to lump homelessness into one category and not break down each individual circumstance of homelessness. Why would you just throw a bill out? You're the president of the United States. Why would you just throw something out there that is vague like this? This is crazy.
So-
You're the president
so-
of the United States. Why wouldn't you
so-
read the bill? He's not reading the bills. He's just signing them. And whoever is actually making the bill is not being thorough enough to account for all of the situations that homelessness and all these different rules that he's, even when it comes down to ICE, how this whole thing been going down. So what happens in this case? What happened in that case? They're just doing it. That's why ICE has this way to just blanket, just throw everybody and send them off to wherever the hell into Alligator Alley. Okay, well now homelessness. Well now they're gonna blanket throw everybody into whatever the hell they're gonna do into insane asylum, and there is no real and then we're just saying, well, we just want to get them off the street. We just want to make sure. Well, listen, he's just gonna make America great again, and we ain't thinking about all kids, all type that your kid can run away from home, be caught up, and then next thing you know, you fighting to get your kid out of a insane asylum because she got caught up because she's looked like she homeless or whatever the hell. We not thinking about all these things that could happen, but it's okay. I said enough.
So hold on 1 second. So Rock, you still there?
I'm still here.
So does it work that way where someone just get mistakenly put into the insane asylum, or they get mistaken as a homeless?
No, I think America would then be the joke of the world if that was going to happen. But I do hear everybody's comments and what they're talking about. But here's what I think too, is that all the grant money, all the 501c3 funds that have been used in the past to so-called address homelessness has failed. So again, addressing it from the extreme cases, like people who are, have addiction issues first, get them off the streets. However that's going to be done, it's going to be a phase process. But looking at it from the perspective of people who are faced homelessness because they've had a lot of misfortunes happen.
Right.
Here's what I've been thinking about as I've been listening to everybody. Communities have enough money if they put it together and get ready to actually get these 501c contracts and build your own community facilities. Those of us who have degrees in mental health, now it's time to start using them. Those of us who have experience in case management, the housing industry, and even just basic budgeting skills, self-governing skills, you can turn that into a very profitable community resource, because funds that, again, have been over decades have been misappropriated and unequally balanced and issued can now be put up under a magnifying glass. And I'm almost certain that part of this addressing the homelessness issue is going to be community based. Again, if you have the ability to write a grant and get these funds, start being part of the solution, get together, put your bread together, and create these programs. You know how many people in the community have degrees of social work that cannot get a job, that are working in other fields than what they went to school for? Now you could apply legitimately for these grants, free money, create your plan, create your how you believe the outcome is going to be, what your mission statement is, get the money so you can be part of the solution, because this is going to happen in phases. And the phase you want to be in is in the preventative phase. To be part of the resolution for the homeless crisis, because there's different categories here. So a person that is gone, and now they need severe mental health services, there's going to be a transitioning phase. Get ready to be part of the transition phase. All the brothers in the community who play basketball, who mentor, who have even been in facility, they can apply for the 501c grant as a mentor and counselors based upon the diversion programs. A lot of the sisters who have their CNA certification, they can go and get their certification for drug and alcohol counseling right now. So as this plan unfolds and you're at a part where you're at the treatment phase, you and those dedicated partners that you're around and you build with, y'all can be part of the healing process too. So I just don't think it's going to be prison encampments and yada, yada, yada. That's scare tactics. America needs working solutions to rebuild America, right? And America is only as great as its citizens. Without people, no structure can survive. And there's so many of us who have family members who have or are still struggling. I got people in my family that's still struggling to this day with mental health and chemical dependency. And I know because of the background, they never got help for their early traumas. And from a mental health perspective, the unconscious aspect of mind is the reaction mind. That reaction part of your mind is going to govern your decision making until you become aware consciously that you've been harmed or hurt and you haven't addressed those issues. That's going to be the highlight of your daily movement until those things get addressed. And so there's nothing more better than those in your community who can provide you with healing services and resources.
Can I say this about this is that, because I know you just said that it probably would not be a thing that could happen with human trafficking, like with victims of that, where they could possibly be. How do you know that a person how would you know that they could not be caught up in that if they are? Because a lot of if you go into Portland, and if you go into the drug thing, a lot of people that are on the streets are teenagers. You understand what I'm saying? There a lot of your heroin addicts and especially Seattle and stuff. They're kids. They're not all adults. So I'm talking about teenage kids that are and then you have the whole sex trafficking situation. You said that couldn't happen. I'm like, what are we saying here?
What couldn't happen?
What could?
That this whole whatever was going on here with this bill would not affect those people, like that they could not round them up and take them off
That's
and
not what he said.
put them into a mental facility.
So just want you to look at this from a strategic perspective. Like I mentioned earlier in our conversation about you start from the bottom. That means that every intense case, every case that is life-threatening or an extreme safety risk, I believe is going to be the starting point. Because if you've ever walked through Skid Row itself, you will realize that's a whole nother world in its own self. And nobody in their right mind would even want to walk in that environment, because you are going to be affected by it. And then number two, I used to work at a residential facility. I did residential treatment from 2002 until 2017. And, working with the CSEC population, yes, there are a lot of young people, particularly young ladies, who are so skilled at manipulation and courting, and then pulling the other young girls to AWOL because there's somebody on the other end waiting to recruit them. It's very, very sad. But let me just talk really quick about the business aspect of residential group homes. For every kid that I did intakes for, I would sit down with the social worker, and the social worker had to do their work. And one of the documents gave you a stipend figure for each resident that came in. The last time I did an intake, and I worked out in Rosemead, California, at a residential facility. Each month, the state would pay $15,000 a month for each resident, and this was all covered up under the 501c grants and federal grants to house each person. So it's a money thing as well, but those funds had come with a very fine mission statement of what was going to be provided. For example, they ate 3 to 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and then dessert or whatever. Each kid got a monthly stipend. They got clothing allowance. They had outing money. So this was a grant that had to be carefully written by each residential group home and approved by the state so they can continue getting funds. So let me just throw this back on this new bill that's about to pop. There has to be a realistic outline in layman's terms for those who will be voting state to state of how they want it to be kind of broken down in their own states and counties. So this is going to be something that needs to be informed. And so for each state that's going to allow this to happen, this is not going to be a one-sided thing. I know personally because the work that I do, it's all about contracts and agreements. New laws that get set in place affect the clients I work with because they signed a contract to be in a community rather than spending their whole time. And you can do your 30 for 30 and not get out. When you get out, you don't have no supervision. That's a choice that they make. Most of them want to be in the community, so they'll spend the portion of their sentence in the community. So with this new piece coming, again, I applaud a portion of it because I think it's horrible and it's disastrous to see so many people out in the streets homeless. And then to address who needs immediate services versus those who can get put on a list to get services, it's a trickle down effect. If you address people who just made bad choices in life in terms of finances, who may have some generalized anxiety or depression, they're the easy population to work with. All you got to do is hook them up with the right resources, get them short-term housing and put them on a permanent housing plan with restrictions and action plan. But you have to ask yourself, how would you deal with the population that is not only a danger to themselves, but they're a danger to the community? They may have some unaddressed, severe emotional, psychological, and mental health issues. What is your plan on how you would address that situation? Because at first, you do have to divide that population from those who may be headed that direction, and decide which part of that community do you think needs to be addressed first. And then lastly, putting people in a prison as opposed to being honest about this movement and saying, hey, for every community facility that is not occupied, we're going to put those people in there with licensed therapists, clinicians, psychiatrists who prescribe, who assess for the need for psychotropic medication. That's what I believe will be used. To put somebody in prison is criminalizing them. That's a whole different storyline. I don't know why these people are putting this information out there unless they can prove and document.
But they don't have an actual, listen, there's no room in the hospitals. Trust me. Okay. I know that because I used to have a group home. Trust me, there's no room. Okay. They barely can fit the people that, get pulled over by police, get taken in by the police every day. Now, if you go ahead and round up a bunch of homeless people and try to bring them to the hospital, to the mental ward, they're not going to have enough beds to facilitate that. So where are they going to put them at? So they're going to have to either have a place to put them at, or create a place, or put them in mental jail, or like a jail. And here's another thing. Now, I did want to get back to one really quick thing before I let you go with what you're saying. I did want to show you this. Okay. So in the United States, 700,000 youth between ages 13 and 17 experience homelessness each year, and an additional 3.5 million young adults 18 to 25 experience homelessness annually. Okay. 4.2 million young people in the U.S. experience homelessness each year. 4.2 million. Where are you going to put these people? How are you going to facilitate that? Right. So, all right. So I just want to just throw that out there real quick. And then I want to also, because I was in that 18 to 25 range when I was homeless. I was very young when I was homeless. Even when I was even younger than that, because my mom and them, they burnt down the house. I was 13, homeless. Thank God someone let me stay there. So I experienced a very tumultuous life. Okay. So I would say that when it really comes down to it, when we talk about homelessness, the main thing I want to get away from is only focusing on the fact that homelessness is a level of drug addict, vagrancy, and that's what this law is only covering. Because anybody could be at that site when they pull people out of it. You know what I'm saying? If they go to a encampment and people are there, there's no way to know if that person is a vagrant, mentally ill, or whatever. They will round them up and sort them out later. And that's what's been happening with the whole ICE raids. That's why when you're saying, well, I don't know why they're saying that they're going to be putting them into well, where else are they going to put them if they decide to do this? Now, one thing I did appreciate is that, okay, yes, we do need to create ways in our own states. And I'm thankful for Queen for saying this. What are you going to do? What should we do? Right? Let's create an action plan. If each one of us writes to our senators about this and says, listen, we need to find a real concrete plan on how we're going to handle what this executive bill is. And I encourage us to figure out a way to write and do this to make sure it does not turn into what it could be, which could be a clusterfuck. Maybe that could help to kind of stave off where it can get into this ICE level, kind of looking like it's a what's that thing on show with people with the red outfits on? Damn, I forgot what the show is on Hulu. What's that girl name? I can't remember. It was the one with the people all had the red outfits on, and and then they came in and took everybody to make sure it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? To where we're up here looking like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's a handmaid tale. So as long as we ain't trying to like make this look like the handmaiden tale, there's a way to go about this. And I think that sometimes when we see homeless people in our minds, we have an image of what a homeless people is, but no, homeless people are not just only grown adults doing smoking crack or doing meth or whatever. Homeless people could be a mother with their children. Homeless people could be a person that got like sex trafficked. Homeless people could be a lot of different things, right? And they could be all in the same location because that's where a lot of that stuff goes. They all kind of like end up being in the same area. And how do we sift through who is the person that needs to be put into a institution and who needs to just get like a little bit of like what's it called, like counseling and like help to like get to a better place? And I don't see that in this bill, and that's the reason why I have a problem with it. So that's the main thing. I'll land my play.
Okay, can you pull back up those numbers again real quick? Okay, so in the United States, an estimated 700,000 youth between the ages of 13 and 17 experience homelessness each year. An additional 3.5 million young adults 18 to 25 also experience homelessness annually. This means that a total of 4.2 million young people in the United States experience homelessness each year. This is just like a run-on sentence. Okay, start with the first number, 700,000. They didn't put the year that they did the census, or this is a combined consensus over however many years. The way this works with DCFS, because this is where they're getting their information from, the Children's Division, Emergency Services for youth, juveniles and youth. The minute they clock this youth as a homeless child, that means that now an investigation is about to happen. As an investigator myself for the Children's Division years ago, within 3 days, we found this child, but that number doesn't change until a certain process happens. But that kid is now housed, whether they want to be in that housing or not, they are housed. And then they talk about the 3.5 young adults between 18 and 25. Here's the deal. They just shut down most, if not all, of the Job Corps facilities. Now, they're also being very strict now on which residential facilities are getting monies to be able to house kids in residential treatment facilities or long-term facilities, because again, DCFS is having a problem with holding on to these kids because they will AWOL. They will jump back into the streets, this, that, and the third. But the problem that we're having here with these numbers is they're not accurate. And these numbers are being placed for, like, how do you say?
Thank you.
You're pulling and prodding at people emotionally, or just it's engineered to social engineer you to a certain frame of thinking. This has nothing to do with this panel, but you got to look at every writing, every paragraph in these so-called bills as maybe a plot or a ploy for an agenda. So we really don't have an excuse. I think there's enough money in our local communities where we can invest dollars. And when you say, well, there's not enough placement, no, there's not enough mental health facilities. They don't have enough money to house folks beyond a certain amount of time, let alone if you say, hey, I have a 3-day plan for this person, a 72-hour hold. Now I'm gonna hook them up with a case manager. Do you know for each person that agency pulls in, they get X amount of dollars to be able to provide those services. The waste comes in is when that person refuses to support beyond the first 72-hour hold. Now that money has to go back to the grantor at the end of the year when you do your internal audit. How much of the treatment plan that you pitched to me to give you this money actually got completed? So there's so many moving parts to this document and what you're talking about that a lot of people conveniently don't pay attention to. And that part of the missing part is a person who needs to stay committed to the treatment that's offered them. And it goes back to that initial part of the plan where people have to be treated beyond their choice to be treated. This is not people. And I agree with you, what you said about your concern about swooping up all people. Again, I go back to what I said earlier. America would be at its last straw and we will be laughed at repeatedly by other countries if this was the case. So I believe it's going to be an action plan that's designed for each subgroup of people that are homeless. It just wouldn't make any rational sense to say, hey, we're going to police this homeless issue. And I think that people who present this stuff are doing everybody an injustice when they throw out this type of ridiculous picture, because you as a citizen have your own voice and you have your own mind, multiplied by millions of people who say, you know what? Yeah, we agree with this plan to deal with homelessness, but you're not going to deal with it and put everybody in some type of prison setting. That just wouldn't work. You have to have a service for each need. Each categorical need needs appropriate treatment, services, and resources. That's how you address the homeless issue, because like you said before, not everybody is sucking on a bottle or smoking this, that, and the third. People have real life experiences that they're trying to work through. And no matter how severe it is, you can get better. You can heal. It's a matter of you deciding within your mind, this is what I want to do. No one's going to make anybody do anything. But if you don't have a capacity to think for yourself, well, who's going to do the thinking for you? And now I've known people who I've been on the phone with close to me that says, you know what, it's over. And they'll send the long text and they try to attempt to leave this reality because they felt that they just couldn't, they couldn't control themselves. And they needed that type of support, initial support, to help them through that type of mind state, because you can go overboard and you won't have a balance to be able to bring yourself back. I know this too well. And as I sit across the table from my clients, I always put myself in a position to say I could be the person on the other side of this table easily, under supervision, on parole, restricted freedom. So I don't take that for granted. I give everybody an opportunity to become self-empowered. No machine is going to, solve the homeless. It's going to take people who have the experience, the understanding, and the willingness to see the vision for people to be housed and off the streets. Again, a country and a city and state that has houses, apartments, local community centers, there should be absolutely no homelessness, because a dollar bill is not a resource. It's just
hold on. Let me just bring this up right here. And I shouts out to Gold Digger for this, because I didn't even think about this thing that could cause homelessness, right? Natural disasters, right? Okay, there's all kind of like floods going on. People get displaced in their homes, fires that happen. Once again, these people are not mentally ill, right? So if they have no other choice but to put up a tent and whatever until they figure out, like, if the FEMA funds ain't came through yet, do they get scooped up with everybody else and put into a mental health facility? This is the type of stuff. Like I said, I get what you guys are saying, but this bill is way too vague. and I'm going to continuously say, they threw this out there. They did not account for everything because there's too many situations that can make a person homeless and be sitting on the same steps as the person that might be crazy or that they are trying to target, sitting right next to them. You know what I'm saying? On Skid Row because, hey, I lost my house burned down last week. And now they're sitting right down. What is the so I'm not trying to continue the whole fear mongering aspect of this whole thing. It's just a matter of when we have these rule laws and these executive orders that come into play, we need to begin to not just accept them like, oh well, he's just talking about this and that's all it is. No, hold on. Because if you're saying homelessness and you're putting that into a category, because that's what he did, okay? Right? What he did was say homeless individuals. Now, a homeless individual could be a person that lost their home due to a fire, lost their home due to this, lost their home due to so many different circumstances. And then you say, okay, no, this is not about those people. This is about these people. But how can you discern who one homeless individual is that might have lost their house and might seem like they look like a certain? What is the determining? How do you determine that person? How do you say? So you have to round them all up and then sort it out. And I don't like that whole thing that could go down with this way of thinking. And I get it. This bill is for homeless people that have mental illness. They need to change the wording on this because when you say shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment, meanwhile, that is not, it's not detailed enough to show that you are talking about homeless individuals with mental illness or homeless individuals with drug addiction. Homeless individuals could be anybody that's homeless for whatever reason that they're homeless for. So I don't agree with the White House, the president coming out with an executive order that is vague and does not have a detailed understanding of who you're talking about because a homeless individual, and then we have to we're over here arguing because they were vague. The reason why we're going back and forth because they were vague in what they put out here. If they would have been clear, we would have had no argument. But it's not clear. Homeless individuals is not a clear description of anybody. That could be anybody. Hell, if I left my house and started living on somebody's couch, I could be considered a homeless individual. Whatever. I don't even know. But I'm just saying.
I think Rock broke it down a little bit more than that. So listen, this is where I have to check out, guys. I want to thank everybody for
before you leave, because we're gonna just wrap this up. I'm gonna give everybody their time to say some final words. I don't want you to leave on that kind of note this. I'm about to go. Let's start. Let's go from. I've said what I had to say. We're gonna start with Rock and then go to Queen and then go to you, Mel. All right, Rock.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Real quick. You asked a question about how do you determine. I think the best way to determine a person's situation is to ask them. Right. The next thing would be, if we put everybody under the same umbrella, which I kind of heard that in the conversation, that would be an unrealistic resolution. No, Trump is not all of a sudden the problem solver. But in my mind, I haven't seen anybody else take a step to make an affirmative step to change or resolve homelessness because it's been swept up under the table for so many years and it's been allowed to be and to get to where it is right now.
Right.
No, there is no such thing as an umbrella resolution. And I don't think that's what's being presented. Again, if you've ever talked to somebody who is mentally unstable, who, let's put substance to the side, although I've worked with so many people, even young people, who have a mental health disorder that they're self-medicating. They may not call it that. They may not see it as that. But little kids don't self-medicate. Their level of dopamine is so aligned and so on point. But at a certain point in a person's life, because they may suffer so much counterproductive life experiences, your natural dopamine will decrease or suspend. Therefore, you're going to need an external stimulus to bring you to a level of, subordinate balance, for a lack of better words. I think that this program or this action plan that's coming out is necessary. I think there are too many well-intended people in the United States that will not stand for any type of criminalization of homelessness. That's not an effective way to resolve it. It needs to be calculated. It needs to be community. It should have a level of community investment, intellectual intelligence to add to it. If you create a program, a law, a rule that's going to devastate the community, then it's going to be counterproductive, for real. But I do believe that it's probably a good idea to say, hey, let's figure out how this is going to go. Let's, check in at every checkpoint of the delivery and figure out if this is what we need. So I'll stop there and say thank you guys for allowing me on your channel.
Hey, Rod, go into the private chat. Please put your information in the back because Mel wants to contact you for his show in the future. And I also want to bring you back on. You have been a great guest on the show. Thank you so much for your contribution. All right, let's go, Queen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make it real quick. I support the bill, and whenever there's some change in the air, it's always going to be a shakeup. It's always going to be a pull. It's always going to be a nub. I'm here to promote it. If they're going to help with a change, then I see change going forward. And for me, to me, I'm 50 years old. I definitely know what homeless mean and the different levels of being homeless. But at some point, we have to put our boots back down on the ground and try to create some sort of change. And during that change, if there's more changes that need to be made, we'll have to move forward. Because if we stay where we're at right now, it's not going to matter what president hit the United States or anywhere else. We're going to sink, and we're going to sink slowly and very, very fast. And I'm going to support whatever change that we can get right now, because we're in a bad deficit. And I don't see anyone else that tried to even go to this capacity to make any type of changes, to even show me as an American that there is still a chance in the United States. As hard as I've worked to build this country up, because I had to build me up to be here. So I'm willing to make
all the words. Sorry, my bad. Keep going.
I'm done. Just was willing to make a change. I'm done.
I'm sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry.
I'm good. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm good.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to I didn't know that my thing was on my daughter.
It's okay. I'm done.
What you just said last.
That was really simple.
No, can you say that last part, because I want to hear what you said the last sentence.
I'm here for the change. To simplify it, I'm here for the change. This is the best I've seen in a lot of years. And I can say when Trump first hit the market in the office, it wasn't looking good. But this second time around, now that I'm really paying attention and I'm woke, I can see that there is a light at the tunnel, eventually a rainbow, and then it's going to be a pot of gold. So I support the change. We see you, Mel.
So you're done?
Yes.
Queen says, I like to reclaim my time. Good job. Good job. So, what I would like to recommend for everybody to go look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you look at the base level, you have safety, which is also your living quarters, your housing. So, when your housing needs are not met, it's almost like you're breathing or eating. You cannot function. A lot of time it causes mental issues because you're so stressed out. And if you have an affinity toward being anxious, when your housing is affected, you can't pay your mortgage, you can't pay your rent, you're not going to be able to sleep at night. So it's just one big fiasco that you have to go through. So this is what I like to recommend for most people that are listening. A lot of us are so tied into work. Somebody needs to mute their mic. I hear a lot of feedback. I'm sorry. So thank you. All right. So the best thing that I would like to recommend for most individuals, because I teach people how to invest in the stock market on a high level, but the base level of that is making cold cash every day. And a lot of times people think, well, I have to have this incredible idea and make a lot of money and whatever. But if you were in a dire need and you can't eat and you're trying to feed your family, you should start thinking on that level. What can you do in the next 24 hours to make cash? And if you can think on that level, you can start your own business to make your own cash. So that way, when the foreigners are taking over, they're getting all the jobs. They have 3 degrees, right? Or if AI is knocking out of jobs, you can go out in the street and still make money to feed your family. Let me explain. Here's a simplistic way for any man, woman listening to this. You can start a window washing business. I know it sounds crazy to some, but I'm just giving you one example. You can start a window washing business, go to Home Depot, and probably buy all the things you need to start the business for about $60. And then it's just a matter of you going out, hustling, knocking on doors, do whatever you need to do to feed your family. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm saying that type of mentality, if you have no money coming in, that would be a way for you to feed the mouths that are depending on you to eat for life. And that's a part of this whole look at the hierarchy of needs, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. But it may not be window washing, but there's something that you can create for your own business so you're no longer so dependent on the man. Because the more you're dependent on the system, you're always going to feel like you're behind the 8 ball. So I would recommend everyone to start their own business. Now, when it comes to the stock market, we could talk about that. That's great. But in order to get to that level, you have to learn how to create an environment where you're making money, not depending on someone else, but you can do it. And then if you become good at it, the first thing you're going to do is want to teach that to your kids, right? So that's my final point for tonight. And I look forward to continue working with each and every one of you, especially DJ Genesis. Nice to meet you, Rock. And also Queen, is always a pleasure. And then we had the Reverend Green in the house as well, who came through and shared his expressions of faith or whatever he was expressing. I really appreciate it all. So good night. That's it for me tonight, guys. We did about 3 hours. I think it was wonderful. We talked about a subject that's real serious about homelessness. And you know what? A lot of people that you know are probably just minutes away from being homeless. All it takes is one life upset, and you could be out there on the street. So anyway, good night all, and to all a good night.
Good night. Good night.
I am blessed to make money, money making money, money making money, money making money, money making money, manifest making money, money making money, money making money, money making money. I ain't stressed, making money, money making money, money making money, money making money. Gratitude is my attitude.